Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody today? Hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday afternoon. Let's start this off. Apologize, I was just a couple of minutes late. Messing around at work, man. It's a busy time of year for me, y'all. Busy time. But I still got to get my time in with y'all. They be trying to keep me from y'all. I just give a couple of minutes. How you doing, Miss Alicia? Appreciate you being here tonight. Hope you're having a good night. Hope you and Mr. Leo doing good over there. Down there, I guess I should say, in Dixon. Let me get set up and then we go ahead and get started. I want to use all my time tonight. I think I'm going to need it. So, how you doing, Miss Tanya? Appreciate you being here as well. Hope everything going good for you down there in McEwen. Let's give about just a few more seconds. Let everybody get in. That's going to come in. Then we're going to get started. Got to get my timer set, though. Y'all know me. I get to going and be going and be going. Some hot call the H2O. Miss Alicia, I know. I'm going to try to get down there Saturday. I'm going to try to get down there this Saturday. I got you on the books for this Saturday. I was supposed to be down there Saturday. I came down this past Saturday, but it was like we was kind of running behind. And we had some things that had to get taken care of, so I couldn't come by there. But this Saturday, I'm actually gonna be knocking on doors in your area, in your apartment complex. So there'll be no excuse unless something happens. I don't make it down that way, but I should be able to make it down that way this Saturday. So if you can prepare, I will be down there somewhere around about 5:30, 6 o'clock this Saturday. If they'll be looking for me, all right. So and I text you, of course, when I'm on the way there, just to let you know. But I should be able to come by and scoop up that desk, or at least look at the desk this Saturday. So with that being said, thank y'all for joining me tonight. Kind of excited about tonight. This is a week start of my festivities. If y'all haven't been watching over the last few weeks, y'all will know this is kind of close to what I like to call my spiritual birthday. It's close. This Saturday will make 20 years since that day I gave my life to the Lord. This Friday, Thursday actually be the day I got the call to start preaching, and 20 years will be we'll celebrate the day I actually answered that call. So kind of excited about it, and I know I kind of got the festivities kind of mixed around. I told y'all I was going to do the message on salvation this week. When in reality, I always like to do my testimony first, because the point of the testimony is to lead, to show people why I'm doing what I do, or why I have a relationship with Jesus, and then use my testimony to help them understand why it's important for them to have a relationship with the Lord. So I always like to do the testimony first, and then I do the lesson of salvation. So I do apologize if I got y'all confused on that. But I wanted to share my testimony with you guys tonight. And so I'm just going to go ahead and pray, and then we're going to jump into it, all right? Dear Lord Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over us today. Thank you for giving us another day on this earth, another opportunity to serve your purpose and your will in our lives, Lord. Man, I thank you for this time of year. It's always a wonderful time of year for me. I'm more excited about this than I am for any other holiday, for my birthday, for Christmas, or any of that. I'm always excited for this time of year, Lord, because it was the time that you gave me that call to come and serve you, Lord. Show me that even though I didn't feel like I was worthy, that I was worthy of doing the work that you have for me to do. And it wasn't my worthiness that giving me the ability to do the work. It was your worthiness, and you being able to use a rich like me. So I just thank you so much for this testimony that I'm about to share. Thank you so much for this wonderful, perfect life that I've lived, Lord. And the people see from the story, it wasn't perfect as far as like nothing happened, but it is perfect for the way things worked out. And it brought me, gave me what I needed, and brought me to a point where I was able to be humbled so I can serve you, Lord. So thank you for this opportunity today to get on here and share my testimony with the people. Again, thank you for the testimony. Thank you for the hand that you had on my life for these past 20 years, Lord, and the things that I've seen, the things I've been able to do, and the mercy and grace that you just shined down upon me and my family and my ministry since we made that decision to serve you, Lord, has just been phenomenal. And I pray that as these people hear this story tonight of what you've done for me, Lord, it will touch their heart, bring them under conviction, and get them to want to make the same decision that I made almost 20 years ago. And that was the decision to give my whole heart to you, to serve your purpose and your will in my life, Lord. So I just pray you send your spirit down upon me tonight. Don't let me be too overbearing, put too much details in, Lord. But I do want to let the people know, because there's so much, and it's hard to choose what to put in, what to leave out. So I pray your spirit guide this session tonight, so I can bring forth the things I need to bring forth, say what I need to say to bring someone under conviction that may be going through the same thing that I went through, or having the same doubts and fears that I had, and just give them the want to hear your gospel, come to know you as Savior, and then dedicate their life to serving you. So we just thank you for all you've done and given, and as always, guide this session and help us get everything done we need to get done to get where we need to be in this session tonight, according to your will for our lives. We love you and thank you for all you've done and given, and say this prayer in one of Son Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So again, y'all, appreciate y'all being here. Hey, Chris, how you doing, brother? Glad you was able to make it here, man. Glad you was able to make it in tonight. Chris probably heard my testimony a million times, so he must be a glutton for punishment. But, I mean, some of y'all heard, and the reason why I do this, like I said, this is the time of year, February the 15th is when the Lord called me to preach, and we'll get into that tonight in the story and my testimony. And then, of course, February the 17th is when the day I finally answered, gave up my own will and gave in to God's will. So every time around this year, this time of year, I like to share my testimony, to celebrate. I celebrate the year. I've been fasting since Friday. What I always do, and this is my personal thing, you ain't got to do it, but something I like to do, I take the week before leading up to the 17th, so the 10th, and I start fasting. And I try to stay away from every sin that I know that I have a problem with, or just anything worldly, anything that I know that I need to stay. And I should be doing it every day, and I try to do it every day, but I really put an extra effort into it for these 7 days, just say that. And I even stay away, and it might be a little too much information, but I even don't have sex that week, even though I'm married, and I can legally do it according to the Bible. But like I said, I just take a week, and I just try to stay away from all earthly pleasures. So if y'all been tagging me and stuff on Facebook, or sending me something on Facebook and I haven't responded, is because I haven't been on Facebook since Saturday, and I won't be, other than doing this lesson and other getting on to do my post about this lesson. I won't be on Facebook until this Saturday coming up. So again, I just try to get away from all negative things. I try to get away from the world and just try to do my best to just get close to God. And then I end it by on Friday. So what I do Friday, I won't eat that whole day. I fast that whole day. That's 24 hours. I won't eat anything after 12 o'clock on Friday morning. And then if Saturday morning at exactly 12 o'clock, I like to go to my church. I got a key to the church. I go to the church, get down on the altar, and I just spend 2 hours in prayer, just thanking the Lord for letting me make it through. So, like I said, this is going to be a big one. This is 20 years. This Saturday make 20 years since I've been serving the Lord, man, 2 decades, and it's been phenomenal. And, of course, a lot of y'all know me. A lot of y'all, most of you on here met me from Soul Winning. So, you know the Brother John, you know the preachy me. So, when I like to do my testimony to help people see why I'm so dedicated to doing the work, why I'm so passionate about it, and to help you get an insight into what I was before I became this. Because you see me now, you're like, oh man, good guy, all that. I wasn't always a good guy. I wasn't always doing the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. I didn't always have a discipline to do the fasting and stuff that I do now. Back in the day, I indulged in whatever my flesh wanted, I gave into it. So that's why I like to do my testimony, and I do it once a year. Because since the last time I did it, there are some people that I've met that has become a part of the ministry. I might have shared bits and pieces of the testimony with them, but I've never shared my whole. It's been a while since I shared my whole testimony with somebody. So I like to do it at least once a year for the people that never heard the whole story before, so they understand where I come from, why I'm so passionate about this work that God has for me to do, and why I'm so excited about trying to get other people to do it as well. So enthusiastic about trying to get other people to do it as well. Because the life I live now compared to the life I lived back then, they don't even compare. It's not even close. So I'd like to start from the beginning. I remember when I first did my testimony, I got a cousin of mine that I respect highly. He's somebody that I take a lot of my spiritual advice from. And he told me, he said, man, your testimony was good. He said, but I don't think you did it justice. He said, you got to get into your childhood, because I kind of glazed over my childhood, but he said people need to know what you really came from, because me being a chemist and things like that, A lot of people don't understand like where I came from to get to the level I'm at now. So I do spend a little bit of time laying out a foundation of my childhood and some of the stuff that I experienced in childhood. But I like to focus on the main part, the moments up before, right up to before the Lord called me. So again, that being said, let me go ahead and jump into it. It's just like a little introduction. So thank y'all for joining me. Like I said, this is about to be my 20-year anniversary of serving the Lord. And it all started back when in Memphis, Tennessee. Almost 44 years. I'm 44, so I'm about to be 44 and a half. And it's crazy because I gave my life to God on February 17th, and my birthday is August 17th. So they're exactly 6 months apart, like to the day. So I thought that was pretty neat. So, and a testimony, talk about testimony. Testimony important. I did want to say this before I get started. Your testimony is important. Over in Revelation chapter 12, verse 11, it says that they overcome the devil by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So it's God's, Jesus' blood, the blood that Jesus shed, and the words that we use to tell how good God has been to us. That's how we defeat the devil. And I can tell you how true that verse is. I'm proof of that verse, because I can't tell y'all know that my ministry called the Lost Sheep Ministry, and I started preaching in the jails. And I can't tell you how many times I was in a jail and went into a cell, maybe 15, 20 guys in there. And hey, I'm the preacher. Anybody want to do Bible study? Nobody wanted to do it. Maybe one or two people like, oh yeah, we'll do it. But they was all in the same cell. So even if they didn't want to do it, they had to listen. And I would just start off sharing my testimony. And by the time I got to the end of that testimony, and I wanted to go ask anybody want to go to Plan of Salvation, I have 10, 15 hands raised. You know what I'm saying? One time I went there, the entire cell. When I first started off, it was just 2 guys that wanted to hear my testimony. By the time I got done, it was 15, 20 guys that wanted to get saved. You know what I'm saying? So I've witnessed that myself, how your testimony can defeat the devil. And that's why your testimony is so important. That's why you're supposed to live your life a certain way after you become a Christian. Not so much so you can get to heaven. If you truly accepted Jesus Christ as your Savior, heard the gospel, that will get you to heaven. But after you make that decision, now from that day forth, you're working on your testimony. And see, the devil can't take your salvation. That's something we'll talk about next week, but he can destroy your testimony. And if he destroys your testimony, he can destroy your ministry as well. So that's why it's important to live your life a certain way once you make that decision, so you'll have a strong testimony and you can be able to overcome the devil. Now, my testimony starts off, my life verse, if anybody's ever signed anything for you, y'all have heard me quote it several times on here. My life verse is Romans 8:28. And it says, and we know that all things work together for good to them who love the Lord, to them who are called according to his purpose. So, of course, when I was very first time I ever told my testimony to anybody, it was in River Lake Baptist Church. It was December the 15th, December 2015, I believe. First time I ever did it. And been preaching ever since. Now, I think it was 2014 when I did it. It was 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. And I shared my testimony. And some just, I had my spirit told me like I needed a verse to go along with it. And I just happened to be in Romans and came across 8:28. And I was like, man, that's my life verse there. So now every time I sign something, I sign Romans 8:28. And the reason why I say that is because as you hear the story, you understand how everything worked out for good. It didn't start off great, but it worked out for great because the Lord had a plan for me. So that being said, I'd like to start off some main characters in my story, so to speak. I got my grandmother. She's the one that I thank God for every day. She's been gone. She's been gone for almost 20 years now. She passed away 20 years ago. But I had her, and I had an uncle named Uncle Han. We called him Uncle Han. They was the one that got me in the church. We went to church. We lived in Memphis, but our church was down in Mississippi, which there it was like the border of Mississippi. So it wasn't far. It was about an hour drive. But my uncle, he stayed in South Memphis. We stayed in North Memphis. So he would drive like 30, 40 minutes to come and pick us up, and then drive another hour to get down to the church. So it was a long day for him, but he did that for us so we can have that relationship with the Lord. And my grandmother, she was one of those, she was very, spiritual person, definitely very, and her one rule was if you stayed in her house, you went to church. It wasn't even an option. I don't care. She didn't care how late you was up the night before. She didn't care if you was at the club. She didn't care if you stayed in her house. Sunday morning, summer morning came around, you got your butt up and went to church. So she really laid the foundation of God in my life. You know what I'm saying? She really is the one that put the foundation of God in my life. And I'm so grateful for, because I would tell y'all, man, just like a lot of people I come across, I was a kid, I didn't like going to church. It was boring. I hated going to church. You know, I hated getting up early Sunday morning and going to church, because you had to get up all during the week for school. And then my grandma was old school, so we had to get up early on Saturday mornings, because sleep in Saturday mornings. And then Sunday morning, got to get up early to go to church. Because like I said, we had about an hour drive to get to church, so we had to get up super early because we went to Sunday school and everything. But I used to hate it. I used to hate going to church. A lot of times out there, wasn't paying attention. I was a kid. Me and my friends, we would hang out in the back and talk and play and do little stuff. We were doing anything but paying attention. And then sometimes we would even go, we'd sneak outside, say we gotta go to the restroom, sneak outside and play around. We had the place where they baptized, a baptismal pool. We'll go play in that. I mean, we'd do anything we could to avoid the church. You know what I'm saying? But then there were some days where we couldn't get out of it. We had to sit in there. And even though I felt like, even though I was rejecting it, didn't want to hear it, it was still getting in there. And that's the great thing about the Word of God. The Word of God never returns in vain. So that's kind of started my relationship with God. My grandmother making me go to church. And that was from the time I think 4 or 5 years old, up until I was 17. So my whole childhood, like I said, I had to go to church. Church was not an option for me. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't gonna say I hated all of it. I did enjoy it. I was like a junior deacon. I was in like the junior choir and things like that. They had like a Baptist convention that I went to one time. So it had its moments. But for the most part, I didn't like going to church. I was forced to go to church. And, you know, a lot of people say that's wrong to force, but I'm glad they did, because that foundation was there. And when the time came for me to get back to that foundation, I reverted back to it when I needed the most. And that's when God had showed me He had something for me. So that was my grandma, my Uncle Heim. And then, of course, we got my mom and dad. My mom, loved her to death. She was a great lady. How you doing, Brother Daniel? Appreciate you being here. Loved her to death. My mom, when I was young, first of all, my mom and dad, they had me when they were 14. So my mom and dad was 14. So me, my mom and dad, we basically in that same age range right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm 44 and they're 59, 58. So we basically in the same age range. So they had me, they was really young. But my mom, I love my mom to death. She was where I got a lot of my work ethic from. She was such a hustler that, so she had me when she was in junior high. She had me right at like a first year of high school. So, you know, most girls that get pregnant that young, they end up dropping out of high school. Which she did, you know, had to sit out when she had me or whatnot. She sat out for a year. But my mom was determined to get her education. So what she did, she actually went to this, it was called Memphis Technical School. She went to a technical school, and she did that for a little while. She did that. She actually graduated from there. So that was a point. My grandma was a grinder too. My grandma worked her butt off. So she was working 2 or 3 jobs to support the family, because her husband went there. And then my mom had to work as well in school. So, and then my grandma on my dad's side, she wouldn't watch me unless my mom paid her. And my mom, like I said, she was only like 14, 15. I mean, she was only 15 when she had me, so she hadn't had a job yet. So she couldn't pay her. So I don't know how it worked out, but somehow I think my mom went and talked to her. I don't know the story, the details of the story, but I know she talked to one of her teachers, and she was like, she was getting ready to withdraw from class. And the teacher's like, well, why are you withdrawing from class? He's like, well, my mama can't watch my baby, and my baby daddy's mama won't watch him, so I ain't got nobody to watch him. So the teacher said, hey, I tell you what, like, does he cry a lot? And she's like, no, he's actually, pretty good baby. I tell you what, if you can bring the baby with you to class, and I will let him sit in my class while you go take your other class. So that was a blessing. I don't know who this man is. My mama can't remember his name. I don't even know if he's still alive. But what a blessing that was. But that's what happened. So that's how my mama finished school. She would actually take me to school with her, drop me off in her professor's class, and then go and do her classes. And I was sitting there with the professor. And it was funny because my mama, she told me stories about it. She said the funny thing was the professor would sit me in the class like I was a student. And he said, and I would sit there and listen to him teach the entire time. Like it was crazy, and then and it might explain why I've always loved school. I've always loved school, and I didn't know that until like later on. That was one of them stories that came out later on. Like, yeah, you remember this is what happened. And I've always loved school. I always loved school. So that was my mom. You know what I'm saying? In the beginning, like I said, she was a very beautiful young lady. When she was old enough to work, she worked. She took care of me. I was the only child for about 4 or 5 years, and then later on, she had my brother Gerald, which he'll come up in the story a little bit later on as well. But she had him, and she worked to take care of both of us. You know, she have a boyfriend here and there now and again. She have a boyfriend and whatnot. What's going on, Ashley? Appreciate you. Glad you made it in. You've heard my testimony a million times, but I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you being here for the support. Thank you. So, like I said, she had a boyfriend there now and again, but for the most part, she took care of us. And we had our own apartments. You know, eventually she was able to move out of my grandmother's house. We had our own apartment. She had her own car. I mean, she was a hard worker. So, I mean, she was great up until I was about 8 years old. And when I was about 8 years old, so my first few years was actually okay. Up when I was about 8 years old is when I started to notice a change in her. And what happened was she started, she was young. Like I said, I was 8. So that means she was only like 21, 22. So she was around that age. So she partied a lot. She drank a lot, smoked weed, and then she started snorting cocaine. And, she started snorting coke. And then eventually the crack epidemic hit. And that's when things just really went downhill. When crack came in, she started smoking crack. And then everything changed after that, And it's weird. I just recently finished up watching this show called Snowfall. And I know y'all like, oh, you Christian watched it. And it wasn't the only reason I watched it wasn't what I expected. And the thing I like about it was if you watch the first season of the show, it kind of shows you how black neighborhoods were and the project and stuff were before crack. Because it was actually nice. The kids was outside playing. It was actually nice neighborhoods. Everybody took care of each other. And then when the crack hit, all that changed. And I got to see that. I didn't, cause I wasn't young enough, I wasn't old enough to remember the good times, but I remember when things started shifting. And it was right, like I said, right when I was about 8 years old. Said I was born in 79, so it was around like 87, and that was right when the crack just really started to hit down in that area. And of course, by the time the 90s came around, it was just full-blown crack epidemic, and she got caught up in that. So she went from this hard-working lady, doing whatever she could to take care of her kids, doing whatever she could to put herself to school, even taking me to the school so she get to school, to like basically abandoning us. You know what I'm saying? By the time I was 10, she was what you would call a full-blown crackhead. And she, we couldn't keep an apartment. We was moving around from apartment to apartment. We'd have an apartment 2-3 months, and then eventually she wouldn't pay the rent or couldn't keep the lease going, and we get kicked out. So we was like, we just moved around. But the only place that was stationary was grandma's house. So we'll move out of grandma's house. My grandma get tired of her, like, oh, y'all need to get out. She'll find a place. We'll be there 2-3 months, right back to grandma's house. You know what I'm saying? So grandma was always constant. And another thing, I didn't say my grandma. I know I said I love my grandma and all that, and I do now. But I couldn't stand my grandma when I was younger. My grandma was so mean, bro. She was old school. She was so mean. Like she was like old school. Like a child could only speak when spoken to. Like, you couldn't go nowhere during the week because if it was school night, you had chores. You had to get up she would get us up like 4, 5 o'clock in the morning and start cleaning the yard and stuff. So I hated when we had to go over her house. Now, my dad's grandma, she would keep me in now and again, and she was like the fun grandma because she let me do whatever I want. But my main grandma, oh my goodness, I couldn't stand my main grandma. She was so mean. So I had to throw that in there. I love her to death now. Thank you for everything she did. But she was so mean. She was old school. And you talk back, she had no problem with slapping you in the mouth right there. And sometimes, you get to smelling yourself a little bit, you get to saying something, and she used to, I don't know why she did it, but she used to keep a mouthful of water. She would put water in her mouth and just hold it. And I don't know if she just let it cool, get warm, room to it, I don't know what. But she was just holding her mouth. And if you came there and she said something to you before she started drinking that water, you got the mouth off, she would just spit that water in your face. And what you gonna do about it? So that was the grandma. So like I said, so I used to, whenever we had to move back in the grandma's house, I hated it because I didn't like my grandma. She was so mean. So that was my mom and grandma. Like I said, before she got on crack, wonderful lady. You know what I'm saying? But once she got on that crack, You know what I'm saying? Once she got on that crack, man, it just really took her down. It took her in a different direction. You know what I'm saying? She was a wonderful lady before then, but it took her in a whole nother direction. And like that's when my life started to really change, and I started to see the effects of that. So another person in my life was my dad. I know I mentioned my dad. So my dad was in my life, but he wasn't. He wasn't an actual dad. He never, you know what I'm saying? He never did anything for me. The one thing he did do for me, y'all probably noticed, I'm a pretty big dude. And the reason why is because my dad actually put me into weight training when I was like 8 years old. So I was like 8 years old, and we had a community center. That's where I spent most of my time. We had a community center, and which is where I spent most of my time at. And doing all kind of classes and free activities and stuff like that. I spent the majority of my childhood there. In the class they had, in the extracurricular activity they had, that's where I was at. I was there at the at Greenlaw Community Center doing my workouts, whatever. So I started working out when I was like 8, because my dad like, oh, you're gonna be in the NFL and you're gonna do this and that, and you know what I'm saying. And I might have could have made it had I actually had him support me, but he never was around. And really, to this day, we don't have a good relationship at all. I honor him because the Bible say, honor thy father and thy mother, so I do honor him, but we have no relationship at all. I mean, he's a very shady dude. He would mess you over if he got the chance, even his own family. One time I got a sister on his side that we're not really close, but I still love her to death. We talk because we just got this common trauma, which is my dad in common. And she would tell me one time he tried to pimp her out to get some dope. You know, like he was like, hey, you know, this drug dealer like had eyes for my sister, so to speak. And he actually tried to convince her to go on a date and go off and hook up with this dude, so this dude would like get him some dope. That's the kind of dude he was. And this one time, and I don't want to talk too long about it, but there was this one time where when I was 16, you know, fast forward a little bit, I was 16 and I needed to get a car because I was working when I was 16. I was working, I was working almost full time, going to school full time, and you know what I'm saying, and playing like football and wrestling. So I was like busy, and I had to catch a bus to get around because nobody in my family really had a car. So I was like, man, if I can just get a job and save up enough to give me a car, then that'll save me so much time because, you know, I don't have to wait on the bus. I don't have to walk down the bus stop. It'll just save hours of my day and I can actually get some sleep kind of thing. So I had work, man. I worked my butt off and I saved up about like $500-$600. And my plan was to go to, we had an auction over in West Memphis. And I was going to go over there and get a car. So that was my plan, to go to West Memphis and give me a car. Somehow my dad, I never told my dad if I had money because he would you know, either steal it from me or go in my pocket and take it from me. So I never would tell him I had money. But somehow he got wind that I was, you know, saving up money to give me a car. So he came by one day with this guy, and he was like, man, I heard you trying to, you know, get your car. He said, well, I got a car for you. So I'm like, really? Like, yeah. And at the time, this was like 95, 96. And he said, yeah, I got this 92 Buick Skylark. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm talking like this, that's basically brand new. And like, I'm like, really? Like, yeah. He like, and I'm like, well, how much for it? He said, well, how much you got, you know, saved up? And I'm like, $600. He said, that'll be enough. So I'm like, I got this basically brand new car for $600. He's like, yeah. So I'm like, where is it at? So the guy, it was I'll never forget, it was this tall, skinny white guy. And the white guy didn't really talk, but he looked shady. Now I'm looking back on it, he was shady as I'll get out, but he never really spoke. So he went and got the car, pulled it up to the house. The keys was in it. I got in there, drove it around. I'm talking about nice, almost brand new car. And I'm like, man, all right. So they came out like, what you think? I'm like, yeah. So I give them the money, give them $600. Bam, I got me a car. But I said, again, I was 16, so I was just excited to have a car. But I should have knew something was up, because after I gave him the money, and I looked, he said, I still got to get the title for it. So park it in the backyard, you know, for 2-3 weeks, and it'll take about 2-3 weeks to get the title. So just park in the backyard, don't drive it. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, okay. So, of course, I put in the backyard, but I'm a 16-year-old kid with a car. I'm not finna just, and it had tags, you know, so I'm like, I'm not just finna let the car sit there. So it was a couple of days, you know, it was the day I was late for school. I'm like, man, forget that. I'm taking my car. So I drive my car to school. Of course, everybody on my job, they're like, oh, Big John, that's your car, blah, blah. I mean, it felt good. You know, girls was on the ride and stuff. So me and my boy Chad, we get the car, man. We just riding. You know, we all over Memphis, just riding around this 92 Buick Skylark, you know what I'm saying, just balling, you know what I'm saying? So that went on for like a couple of weeks, and then I started hitting my daddy up. He went out to the phone. So I'm like, why is this dude? And he was avoiding me. So it's like 4 weeks later. I'm like, hey man, it's been 3 weeks. You said you had a title for this car. You know what's going on? I finally got in touch with you. Oh man, no, I ain't got it yet. Just keep it parked. You know, so after about 6 weeks, this went on about 6 weeks. And after about 6 weeks, I'm like, all right, something's up. You know, so I started doing a little investigation, and I started going through the car, and they had cleaned everything out of the car except it was this one receipt from the dry cleaners, and it had a lady's name on there. And so I found the receipt, and I went to the phone. This was back in the day we didn't have internet and stuff, so you went to the phone book. So I took that receipt, I went to the phone book, looked the lady name up, and found the phone number, and I called her, and it was like this older lady. She sounded like she probably 60, 70 years old. And I asked her, I said, hey, ma'am, do you by chance own a Buick Skylark, a 92 Buick Skylark? She said, well, I did. And I said, what do you mean, D? She said, yeah, my son stole it. I'm like, oh. I said, ma'am, I think your son sold me this car. I said, I got it here. I said, if you know what I'm saying, if you didn't want to give it rightfully, I'll bring it back to you. And I was going to take it back to her, but my grandma said, no, boy, like, she might call the police and have the police waiting on you there. And when you get there, the police arrest you for having stole the car. So she said the best thing to do. So what I did, I called the police and I reported the car myself. So the police had to come and pull my car, come and tow my car. And it turns out the guy that was with my dad was her son, and he was on drugs, and he stole the car. That's why he had the keys in it. You know what I'm saying? So my own dad did that to me. And police when the police who asked me how I got it, and I told him what happened, he said, man, that's so low down. He said, I can't believe a dad would do that to his own son. He said, but I'm going to tell you something, young man. He said, you keep your head up. He said, you just restored my faith in our youth in this city. He said, for you to do what you did, knowing you're going to lose your money, knowing you're not getting your money back, and yet you still did the right thing and called us to come get this car. He said, you restored my humanity in my faith in our youth of this city. He said, I think you have a bright future ahead of you. He said, don't worry, man, you'll get your chance to get you another one. And that was that. So that's the kind of my dad. And after that, man, he avoided me for a while. Turns out I talked to my cousin, and another one of them stories you didn't find out till later on, that he said he told my dad that if he caught him around me, that he might hurt him, and he didn't want to do that out of respect for me. So that's why my dad avoided me. But that's the kind of dude he was. And like I said, and the reason why I say he was in my life but wasn't in my life, because he never made any effort to come hang out with me, to take me out anywhere. If he did, he took me to places where he was at, which was just standing on the corner drinking beer, smoking weed. And but he actually, his favorite corner that he like to hang out on was literally a block away from my house. So if I wanted to see him, I knew where to go find him, but he never made no effort to come and see me. So he wasn't in my life, and anytime he did try to give me advice or something, it was always horrible advice. I remember this one time I was in college, I needed some money, and I heard he had got some kind of big settlement or something, so I called him up to see if he had throw me a few bucks, because I was kind of hurt. I was a broke college student, and his reply was, man, I give you enough to buy you no, he said, what I do, I give you a brick, and if you want to, you can break that brick down and sell it, and then, you can have you some money. So how your own daddy gonna try to influence you to sell drugs when you trying to put yourself through college? So that was my dad. So you met my grandma. These are the four main characters of my life that really kind of shaped my life. So that was my grandma, my dad, my mom, and then the other one was my brother. Which if you see the comments down here, he's making these cursing while I'm sitting here trying to preach. That's my brother. That make perfect sense. But my little brother, he was 5 years younger than me. Like I said, we got the same mom, of course, different dad. We was always close, because like I said, by the time he came along, my mom, she was fully out there. So really, I kind of had a hand in raising him from the beginning. She would always leave when she'd go off, run off or whatever, especially when we had our own place. She would just leave us at the house. So I had to make sure he got fed, make sure he got in the bed, make sure, he got up and we went to school the next day, if we went to school, kind of thing. So I've always been kind of like, I was a brother to him, but I was more of a dad to him, so to speak. Try to raise him in the right direction, then lead him in the right direction. And when we was older, we was a little older, he was still pretty young, but I was a teenager. He actually, his dad ended up getting custody of him. Took my wife, took my mom to court, and was able to convince the judge that she was an unfit mom, what she was at the time, and he was able to get custody of my brother. So that kind of split us up. But I still always took care of my brother, because I started working when I was 16, so I would shoot him money. I knew his dad wasn't, because he had like 3, 4 other brothers and sisters, and his dad was kind of tightwad. So I was, buy him shoes, buy him little stuff so he can floss and be nice in school, buy him an outfit here and there. So we always had this tight relationship. Like I said, yeah, brothers, but a little bit more than brother. It was always been more of a older big brother, dad, and father influence kind of thing. That was our relationship, and love him to death. And he's gonna come up a little bit later on in the story. So those are the four main people that was like the groundwork of my life. Those are the ones that had the biggest effect out of anything. And I had way more, but those are the main ones as far as this story is concerned. And there's other people that's gonna come up as well. So those are the people that I was around. Those are the people that was in my life, and those are the people that had an influence in my life. So when my mama got done, she got really bad on the dope. We got to a point where we couldn't afford to get in apartments no more. She had messed over so many people and didn't pay her rent that she couldn't get a place. So we finally ended up staying with my grandma permanently. Which, like I said, I hated my grandma at the time. Oh my goodness, I couldn't stand her. But we ended up staying there permanently. Ended up staying with my grandmother. And at the time, also another thing that happened to me when I was younger. Now, my grandmother, I had 4 other cousins. Let's see, Sean, Tasha. Yeah, I had 4 other cousins. So my grandma had this huge house in the middle of North Memphis. Now, again, before the crack epidemic hit, we had a decent neighborhood. It wasn't just nice, but it was decent. Everybody worked. Everybody took care of each other, watched out for each other kind of thing. But once the crack epidemic hit, it hit us hard. And where we stayed in North Memphis, it was probably one of the. I stayed about a block away from what was one of the worst projects in Memphis, which was Hurt Village. And of course, a block ain't nothing, so I basically stayed in Hurt Village. And most of my friends and most of my family lived in Hurt Village, so I spent the majority of my time in Hurt Village, even though I'm not from Hurt Village. But everybody there knew me because they knew my family and knew my friends and things like that. So that was the neighborhood. So the neighborhood, just once the crack hit, it just declined real rapidly. And same with my everybody in my house. I had a cousin, 2 cousins that stayed there. 3 cousins that stayed there. And then I had, older. I say older, like men. I had an uncle that stayed there. My mom stayed there. It was a huge house, a whole lot of people. And everybody in that house was either on drugs, sold drugs, in a gang, murderers, killers, rapists. That's what I was raised. That's what I slept in the same room as, because we had just big rooms and beds everywhere, and that's what I slept. And I always felt like I was a sheep among wolves kind of thing that my life. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of my house. And the house started, when I remember when I was young, it was nice. But it started to decline over years. Eventually, man, we had roach infestation. We had rats everywhere. Like, you'll be sleeping, and it was like rats, man. It wasn't like little baby mice. It was rats. It was like, man, I remember seeing rats as big as cats. Sometimes we would have possums, and the house was old, so it kind of set up like 2 or 3 feet off the ground, and it had like holes in the floor from where the wood had rotted. Like, you had to watch. We knew certain areas we could step and we couldn't step, because you stepped in the wrong area, you actually stepped through the floor and break something. So we had like these huge holes in the floor, and like animals would just we would go to open up our dresser drawer, and it'd be possums or something just sitting in the dresser drawer kind of thing. And like I said, it was infested with roaches. The roaches so bad, you know how sometimes you get up in the middle of the night and you want to go get you a cup of water. Well, what we would have to do, we would have to go and cut the lights on and wait for like 5 minutes for the roaches to clear out. And I mean, it was so many, every single thing was covered. I mean, I don't want to say head to toe, but top to bottom with roaches. And you would cut the light on, and it looked like the furniture just got up and moved away, but it wasn't. It was just the roaches clearing off the furniture. I mean, it was infested with roaches. I mean, you would have roaches crawling on you while you're trying to sleep. If you're sitting there watching TV, they'd be knocking them off. And I remember so bad, and to this day, and it's funny how your childhood trauma, what it do to you. To this day, I do not put on my shoes unless I take them and I kind of bump them like that to make sure no roaches, because I would get up in the morning and I would bump my shoes and roaches would just fall out of my shoes. And I didn't want to be the guy to go to school and have roaches crawling out the shoes, because I actually had that happen one time. Luckily, the people didn't see it came out of my shoe, but there was a roach crawled up out of my shoe. And after that, I was like, man, I got to check. So every morning, and to this day, I would not, if you ever see me getting ready to put my shoes on and I ain't had them on all night, when I get up in the morning, put my work boots on, I hit the bottom. And I don't even have roaches anymore, but I that's in my mind. Like, I have to hit the bottom to make sure there's no bugs or roaches waiting in there for me. And that has actually helped me out, because now I'm in the country. I ain't got roaches, but I got spiders, you know. So on one time I did that and the brown recluse fell out. You know what I'm saying? So it was so that was kind of the childhood. That was the living condition. It was poor, and the house, we didn't have the money. Like I said, my grandma, the reason why I had my other 4 cousins living with me is because my grandma's daughter died, which my cousin's mom. She died of a heart attack at a very young age. So my grandma took them in. So, and my grandma, by this time, she was older. She wasn't working no more. So all she was getting was like food stamps and welfare, you know, and she got enough for 3 folks, but it was like 5, 6, 7 of us in the house, not to mention the grown adults that was always living in the house that really wasn't working because they was sitting around drinking and smoking all the time. You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of my family dynamic. And I always tell people, you know, when people talk about family, and my kids don't understand why I'm so big on family now. I'm always about, you know, family time and doing stuff together as a family, because something I realized as I've gotten older, I never really had a family. We was just a group of people that was related to each other. We never really was family, because we couldn't, like, you know, I couldn't leave money sitting on my nightstand and it be there in the morning. Like, matter of fact, when my mom was at the peak of her crackheadedness, I guess you would call it, like, if I had money, somebody gave me some money or something, I actually would have to sleep with it in my underwear. Because if I didn't sleep with it in my underwear and I woke up that morning, it would be gone. Like, she knew all my hiding spaces, whatever, you know what I'm saying, it would be gone. And even with sleeping in my underwear, some nights I wake up and it'd be gone, you know, and I couldn't do nothing about it. Like, man, my mom got me, kind of thing, you know, and then that was kind of bad. Like, we didn't watch out for each other. We didn't take care of each other. Like I said, we were just a group of people that was blood related, but we really had no sense of family at all. You know what I'm saying? And some of the worst fights I've seen, some of the most horrible things I've seen people do to each other was me watching my own family do it to each other. I've seen my uncle beat my mom one time with a cane to his splinter. You know what I'm saying? I saw my other cousin push my younger cousin, face into a wall and broke his nose. And I mean, it's all kind of stuff that I saw in my own household. You know, I remember one time my mom with the crack stuff. You know, I remember one time she got smacked in the face with a 40-ounce bottle because a dope boy, thought she had stole his dope, because the police came and he tossed it, and she was in the area, and when they came back, they couldn't find it. So just assumed that she got it, and he smacked her across the face with a 40 bottle. I saw all this. I saw her teeth, you know, dangling because he smacked her across the face. So it was a lot of childhood trauma involved. And it was so crazy that was normal to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's normal. Like, a lot of times we don't realize in the hood, when we go through stuff like that, we are so traumatized that we don't even realize it. It ain't until you get outside the hood or get around something nice, you be like, man, like, I didn't even know. Like, when I moved to Nashville, like, man, I didn't even know places like this existed. It was insane, because we don't travel much, don't have money to travel much, you know, so you don't really see it. And I didn't realize how traumatized I was. Stuff like that was normal to me. I saw it on a normal day basis. Like I said, I can't get into all the details. We'll be here for 3 hours, you know, but I did want to kind of lay down the groundwork of how my beginnings what I was raised up around, the things that I saw on a daily basis, you know. And by the time I was, like I said, 10, when my mama was full blown crackhead, she was a prostitute at the time. You know what I'm saying? So she started prostituting to pay for her habit, and it was so bad. And my brother, I don't know if he's still on here, but he can attest to this. Like, it was so bad that if my mama left the house, when she came back, we wouldn't allow her to kiss us, because we didn't know what she was doing, if you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying? And like, sometimes, like, I'd be like, I was always, you know, busy or whatever doing activities. So sometimes I come home and my mama's home taking a shower or something. So my brother, he's like, hey, don't let her kiss you. And I already knew what it was. You know, that means she had, you know, went off and saw a dude or something, because she came back with some money or whatnot. So that was how bad it was. Because we, like I said, we loved our mama. We used to kiss her, you know what I'm saying, on the cheek. You know, she used to kiss us on the lips and stuff like that. But when we got older, we couldn't allow her to do it, because we knew she was doing. And to this day, like, if she go to kiss, I just like, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. And I let her kiss on my cheek or something like that, on my forehead. But still, I wipe my face, because that's how traumatized it was, because of what she used to do. So, and the thing was, like I said, in the neighborhood, everybody knew who we were. Everybody knew our family. So everybody knew she was the prostitute. So you can imagine, you know how kids are. Kids are jerks. So you can imagine how that was, being on the bus. You know, we get to talking about each other, snapping on each other, and somebody, that's why I had your mom, you know, last night, you know. And it was traumatized because it could be true. Like, I didn't know. She didn't have no, whoever had the money, they got her, you know. So I dealt with that a lot. So then, of course, with her being on drugs, we never had money. We, like I said, she ended up stopped working. She got on food stamp and welfare. And back in the day, it always came right around the first. So when the first came, there was like the dope boys holiday, because they knew that all of the drug addicts got they welfare and they food stamp. And you know, and my mom, she might buy like, I'm thinking we got like $400-500 worth of food stamps. She might buy like $50 worth of food or something like that, and the rest she would go sell them so she can get some dope, or go pay off one of her old debt and get some more dope. You know, same with the welfare. You know what I'm saying? So I never really had any kind of clothes. And that's why you notice now, like, I wear the same stuff over and over. Wearing clothes don't bother me. People always mess with me about wearing a tank top. Clothes don't bother me at all, because I never had clothes. I've never been about dressing fair. Now, when I go out, and especially with my wife, I like my wife dressed me up. If y'all see me and I look nice, my wife did it. Because she's like, I'm tired of you looking like a bum. But it don't bother me. It never made, the clothes never made who I was. I still made it to who I am without having nice things when I was younger. But we never did have nice things. And because of my size, I wore a lot of hand-me-downs from my uncle. So most of my clothes that I had, if you look at me, if you see pictures of me in like junior high and elementary, it was all, up until I started working for myself and I can buy my own clothes when I was 16. But before that, I wore hand-me-down. I mean, like, I wore all my uncle's old clothes, even down to their underwear. And it was funny because I had one uncle, he was somewhat of a ladies' man, so he only wore like bikini underwear. And so I would have to wear, you know, so I would go to school and I got on like these leopard print, you know, underwear. And I remember one day I was in football practice and the guys saw me, and I always try to like sneak in the corner to get undressed because I didn't want nobody to see because I knew they were going to make fun of me. And one day I was like, man, why you always sneaking in the corner? And I had my like football stuff over me. He snatched it, bro. And I had like these leopard print on a bikini underwear with the little string going up in my butt, bro. Oh man, they talk about me like a dog. Like I still to this day, if I saw any of those guys, you know what I'm saying, they would bring that up. You know what I'm saying? So again, all this stuff was traumatized. So that's what made me work. So what I did to support myself, to support my brother, I started like a little business almost. So the neighborhood got so bad that the people were scared to go to the old ladies that live in the neighborhood. They were scared to go to the stores because that's where the dope boys hung out, outside the stores, and, you know, standing on the corner drinking and smoking. But like I said, everybody in the neighborhood knew me, and I was always a smart kid because I always loved school. So they actually encouraged me. And that's the one thing I will say about the neighborhood. I want to make sure I mention this. You know, I never sold drugs in North Memphis or got into the drug life because of other drug dealers. Because they always knew, because I was always different. Like I said, I love going to school. Where all my other friends, they hated going to school. I love going to school. And I always had like straight A's and B's on my report card. And that's how I actually made money. I made a business of that. So every time my report card came out, I would go around to all the dope boys and show them my report card. And like for every A, they would give me like $1. For every like B, they would give me 50 cents. So that became my hustle. So I got good grades so I could get money. And then I would take it to the grocery stores, and the people that own the little corner stores in our neighborhood, they would give me free food and stuff. So that's how I ate. And then another thing I did for the old ladies, I would cut their yards, take out their trash for them. And like I said, they hated going to the grocery stores. Go to the stores because of the guys that hung out the stores. So what they do, they would call my grandma. My grandma was like the hub. They would call my grandma, be like, hey, sit them down. I need them to go to the store for me. So I would go down to their house, pick up their grocery list, and they would give me the money, and I would go to the store and do the shopping for them. And then I'd go and take them back. And then whatever and I didn't have no set price, just whatever. Sometimes they said just keep whatever change that was left. Sometimes they actually throw me like $5, $10. It was the first of the month. They got their checks. They throw me $5, $10. Or sometimes they just feed me. Like, hey, I ain't got no money for you, but hey, I cooked this last night. I know you're probably hungry. Here you go. So that's kind of how I survived the neighborhood, by just setting up their little business and just staying busy. You know what I'm saying? So that was my childhood. And the only thing I left out, and I want to move on from there, but I did want to set up kind of my beginnings, my humble beginnings, so to speak. And the only other thing that I left out that did happen, so when I was about 4 years old, like I said, I used to hang out with my people over in Hurt Village, over my dad's place, because that was my dad stayed in Hurt Village. And my dad, all he did was drink and smoke. So we would go over there, and me and my cousin just run around and play. Nobody really paid attention to us. We would run around and play. And I had a cousin on my dad's side that was a pedophile. Now, I know what he is now. I didn't know then. And it's crazy because he was one of them. You know, he was the one that we always like, hey, he was the cool guy. You know what I'm saying? And when I was like 4 or 5 years old, We used to hang out, and one time he took me in the bathroom, and you know what I'm saying, he had sex with me. And I'm 5 years old, and it's not like now where kids know everything. We didn't have the internet. We didn't know what sex was. You know what I'm saying? All I know, he told me, don't tell nobody. Like, hey, no matter what, don't tell nobody. So I didn't know what it was. So every time I would go over there, you know what I'm saying, if the adults was outside partying, drinking, whatever, he'd sneak me in the house and would have sex with me, kind of thing. So that went on. Then later on, he ended up moving away, or something happened. And then later on, I had a cousin on my mom's side that ended up moving in with us from up north. He got us in trouble up north, and he moved in, and he was a pedophile as well. And I guess, man, now that I know more about pedophilia and stuff like that, they always say these guys know their target. They know who they can victimize, kind of thing. And like I'm saying, I was a big kid, because like I said, I started lifting weights when I was 8. So I didn't have a lot of friends. Didn't have no girls. Didn't like me because I was bigger than everybody else. Didn't have a lot of friends because I was a smart dude and I wasn't in the streets. So I was kind of a loner. So these older people were the only ones that were really I can really relate to and would really hang out with me. So that's who I was hanging out with. But they was taking advantage of that because they knew I was a loner and just needed a friend. So my cousin moved down from up north. He started molesting me as well. He was raping me as well. So from the age I was about 4 years old to probably 10 years old, I was being raped by these two men for I can't even count the amount of times. I can't even tell you. And a lot of it is blocked out. But I do remember some instances. I really don't like talking about it, but I can't tell you my testimony without telling you that part because it really made me who I am. So the one bright spot that I did have, like I said, that kept me positive was I was in Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout. Like I said, I was always doing some kind of activity. I was like, when football season was in, I played football. When basketball season was in, I played basketball. When track season was in, I ran track. When wrestling season was in, I wrestled. Like, I was always doing something. Just like y'all, if anybody know me personally, know I'm always doing something. I'm always busy. I've always been like that. That's what I've always been. I've always been doing something because I'm like, man, something got to give. Something's gonna break eventually, and I'm like, I'm gonna have a breakthrough at some point. So that's how I was when I was younger. And one thing that was really that kept me positive was when I was doing Boy Scout. I love Boy Scout, man. I got into it because my cousin was in it. Started doing it. I actually ended up completing it. I'm actually an Eagle Scout. So I completed that when I was 17. I completed my Eagle Scout. But it was the one place I had in my life outside of school that was positive. Like where I saw positive meaning, nobody wanted anything from me. Nobody was trying to do anything to me other than lift me up and teach me what I need to know to be a man. That's what I loved about Boy Scout. And to this day, the guy in my Scoutmaster, his name is Mr. Jake Allen. And matter of fact, I just talked to him his birthday was last week. I still talk to him to this day. And I ain't been a Boy Scout in almost 30 years, But this is the impact that he had on my life. And he was a good spiritual man. He was another one that was good for my spirituality. He was a very spiritual man. I always quote the Bible and things like that. And I call him dad. He called my kids his grandkids. I call him my dad. Anytime I go to Memphis, we go down and we hang out. We call each other. Like I said, I'm 47 years old. I became an Eagle Scout at 17. I still talk to that man this day because he was the one bright spot. It was him and a couple others before him that came along before him. And they was all black men, strong, hard-working black men. And they would have those were the men. I never looked up to the drug dealer like all my friends did. I looked up to them. I looked up to the teachers. I looked up to the people that wasn't like everybody else I saw in North Memphis because I was always different, so I was always looking for something different. So that was the positive thing I had in my life, and I think that's the one thing that kept me from completely going off the deep end and ending up in jail or juvenile or something like that. So that's the groundwork, and I didn't, like I said, I'll be here all night if I told y'all everything I went through. But I just want to let y'all know a little bit of where I came from, so you'll understand where I'm at now and this transition and how great God was to do that for me, how big of a step it was, and why I'm so passionate about that. So that was kind of childhood. Like I said, everybody I raised up around was gangs. They was in the gangs, sold dope, drug dealers, rapists, murderers. That's what I was raised around. So when I got older and I started working for myself, I started something just putting in my heart. I know it was God, but I didn't know then. It was just something like you can't stay in Memphis. I knew that if I stayed in Memphis, I was gonna end up dead or in jail. I just knew I didn't know where I was gonna go, but I knew I needed to leave Memphis. And like I said, with all my activities going on, something's gonna get me out of this situation. So football ended up being a thing. Played football. I actually got a scholarship to this place in St. Paul, Minnesota. It was St. Paul, Minnesota. It's called Concordia University, private college. I had been talking to the coach all year. He was excited to get me up there. I was excited to get there. But again, I had never really traveled before, so I had no clue how far away that was. I didn't even know I was going to get how I was going to get there. I just knew I needed to go. So that's what I did. I worked toward getting to go up there. So what happened was something else I left out too. Something else I used to do when I was younger. So my schedule when I was in high school, I actually had to take care of my grandmother. By the time the end, my grandma, toward the end of her life, she developed diabetes real bad, so she lost her eyesight. So my grandma used to cook like all the Thanksgiving dinners, all the Christmas dinners, and things of that nature. So when she lost her eyesight, she couldn't cook them no more. Now y'all see, I'm a pretty fat guy. I was always a big kid, fat kid. So whenever grandma was cooking, I was always in the kitchen, because especially when she made her cakes, so that way I can get the cake bowl. I can be the one that licked the cake bowl or whatever. So when she started going blind, I think she saw it coming. Her eyesight started getting dimmer. So she was like, look, you're going to always be in the kitchen harassing me, then I'm going to put you to use. Like, if you're going to be in the kitchen, then you're going to have to do something. So she started teaching me how to cook. So before she went blind, or as she was going blind, she started teaching me how to cook. And after she went blind, I was the one responsible for cooking like the Thanksgiving dinner and the Christmas dinner. And I'm talking about the turkey, the dressing, the sweet potato pies, the cakes, and some of my people in my ministry, they can attest to my cakes. I make them cakes for their birthday. Everybody that's come to my ministry for some time, and that's what I got that from, because my grandma taught me how to make cakes when I was like 12 years old. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I do. So she started doing that. So as she went blind, her diabetes got worse. As her diabetes got worse, she had to take insulin shots. So I would have to get up. The way my schedule went when I was in high school, I would have to get up about 5 o'clock in the morning, cook my grandma breakfast, make her lunch, and put it in the refrigerator, put it in a container, and put it in the refrigerator to where, because she knew the house enough where she can make her way around the house. She had a cane or whatever, and she can make her way around the house with the cane, so she knew where the refrigerator and stuff. So I would make the food and put it to where she can just reach her hand in the refrigerator and get it or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? So I would have to do that. Take her blood sugar, record it in the morning, and give her her insulin shots, and then I have to set up 2 more, because she had to take 2 or 3 throughout the day. So I had to set up others so she can give herself injections as well. Now mind you, there's still other people in the house. I'm not the only one in the house, but I was the only one that was willing to take care of, or I was the only one she would trust to take care of her, I guess. So that was kind of my life. So like I said, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, do all that from the grandmother. Then I had to be at the bus stop about 6:45, go to school all day, get out of school at 2:30. 2:30 was come around, go to football practice. Football practice was over, had to go to wrestling practice. When wrestling practice was over, I would have to walk about 2-3 miles, unless the coach, every once in a while the coach would take me, but most of the time I had to walk 2-3 miles, catch a bus, go to work, which was down in East Memphis on Mendenhall, work up until about 11, 12 o'clock at night, go home, get home about 12:30, 1 o'clock, eat, take a little, maybe take a wash up, maybe not, and go to bed and get back up. And that was my schedule every day. So I was basically up from 5 to 1 and 2 o'clock every morning. I slept like 2-3 hours a day, and that was basically my whole high school career. You know what I'm saying? So it was rough. And I was like, man, I gotta have a better life. I gotta do some more. But I knew that this is what it took for me to get out the hood. Most kids wouldn't dedicate themselves like this, especially at a young age. And that was the one thing my grandma always told me. She said, boy, you're going to turn 30 before you turn 13. Because I was always mature. I always understood what needed to be done. And I was always willing to get it done. You know what I'm saying? Even though it was a lot of hard work and it had been easier if I just hung out with my friends and sold dope with them, I was like, no, I'm going to do this the right way. Because I can't say I said God got something for me, but I just knew there was something better for me. So again, that's what I did all through high school. Finally, high school was ending. Like I said, I got this scholarship to go play football in Minnesota. And I'm talking about like the week before I'm getting ready to leave, my grandma come to me and she got tears in her eyes. And I'm like, man, what's going on? She's like, well, look, see, I know you got to get to Memphis. The way your dad is and the way your family is and the way things are going down here. She said, I know you got to leave Memphis. She said, all I ask is that you go somewhere closer than Minnesota. She's like, you go to Minnesota, she said, I don't think you realize there's like a half a world away. She's like, there's no way that you're going to be able to get down here if I need you. She said, could you just please go? She said, I know you need to leave, so I'm not asking you to stay. She said, just go somewhere close enough that where if I need you, you can come home. And I'm like, all right. So, and show you how God worked, bro. And God really started working. Show you how He worked. That same day, I want to say that same day or within that same week, my grandma asking me that, telling me to stay closer. I got a letter from TSU, Tennessee State University, which is in Nashville, saying that, hey, I got accepted. And with my financial aid, I didn't have any scholarship because I was supposed to go to Minnesota. But I did send my information into TSU. So with my Pell Grants and my student loans and everything, that I was going to have everything paid for if I wanted to go there. So the same week, so I was like, man, I guess I'm going to TSU. Now, I hadn't been talking to nobody from TSU, nothing. I had no clue I was going to TSU, and I didn't even know where it was at. I just knew it was in Nashville. So I remember I packed up my stuff when it was time. They sent the paper saying freshman orientation is this, you need to be on campus this day, that. And I just packed my stuff up. And my Uncle Han I was talking about earlier, he came and scooped me up, and we just got in the truck and we just got on the highway. We didn't have no direction, because again, we didn't have GPS or nothing. We didn't know where the school was at. We just knew that to get to Nashville, you had to jump on 40. So that's what we did. We jumped on 40 heading east, and we're like, hopefully we'll find it. We'll ask for direction when we get there. Now, by the grace of God, TSU is not hard to find at all. Like literally, as you get into Nashville, it's a sign like says Tennessee State this way, and you know what I'm saying, and then you go, you can go to the right. And we just took the little curve around to the left, and then we go around. It says TSU this way, so you get off on that sign and make one left. It's really literally one left turn after you get off the interstate, and you at Tennessee State University. So it wasn't hard to find at all. And we ended up there. I didn't have a room. I didn't even have a room. You know what I'm saying, and it was packed too. And I remember a lot of people that sitting around and had rooms. So I was like, man, what am I going to do? And my mama was like, hey, let me talk to him. Let me talk to the dorm. She wanted to talk to the dorm director. And I remember him and her going back in the office. I don't know what she did. I can't say what she did, but I appreciate what she did, because I know when she came back out, I had a room. You know what I'm saying? Everything that happened in that room is up to speculation. I don't know. All I know is when she came back out, I had me a dorm room. So we moved into my dorm room, and like I said, it was people that had been sitting there for hours, and they didn't have a room yet. My mom went in there, 5 minutes later, I had a room. I don't know what she did, but whatever she did a great job, because I had me a room. So I got me a room, man, went in there, started my college career. So now I'm kind of fast forward. I'm in college, and of course now I'm on my own. I'm out of my grandma's house, because grandma was like, you stay in my house, you got to go to school. You got to go to church. Well, now I'm out of grandma's house, so guess what the first thing I did, y'all? Stop going to church. Stop going to church, man. Stop reading my Bible, and really just had nothing to do with God. So first year I wasn't too bad. I wasn't too tired. I was kind of getting the lay of the land, because I was in very unfamiliar territory. But over time, man, I just met guys, you know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of young guys, and people was partying, so I got into partying. I never was a drinker, because I had an uncle, my mom's twin brother was an alcoholic, and he was horrible. He was like, when he was drunk, when he was sober, he was the nicest person you would ever meet. But when he was drunk, he was the meanest, most evil person you would ever meet. And when he was sobered up, he was right back to normal. So I never liked alcohol. Like, anybody know me can tell you, I hate alcohol. I don't like it at all. I don't drink. Don't recommend drinking. I drank when I was in college, but everybody else was doing it. But since I became my own man, since I gave my life to God, I can't tell you the last time I had a drink. I don't even drink a beer just to be social. I don't drink at all. I don't want alcohol in my body. But back then, everybody else was drinking. I pledged a fraternity. I started hanging out with the Mega Psi Phi, trying to pledge a fraternity. They was all about drinking and partying and stuff. So, man, I started living a good life, so to speak. So, man, I was partying. I was drinking. I had a roommate that smoked weed all the time. And eventually I started smoking weed with him. So I became a weed head. Man, I was popping ecstasy pills. I met some white guys, and they put me on the shrooms. So I was taking shrooms, man, and I was just living a life. And I did that for a couple of years, man, and it was good. And so about toward the end of my sophomore year, my second year up there, I got a call from my grandma one day, and she one thing she had told me, and I think she knew she was kind of toward the end of her life, but she had told me, she called me, she's like, look, she said, you know what I did for you? The sacrifices I made for you, because she did. She said, the only thing I asked she said, there's going to be a moment when you're going to have to take care of your brother. And she's like, when that moment presents itself, I want you to promise me you'll take care of your brother. So I'm like, all right, man, whatever. Yeah, I take care of him, grandma. You know, just whatever to ease her mind kind of thing. And she ended up passing away. Like, she passed away. I never forget it. I was getting ready to take. I had finally, like the first 2 years, I went back and forth from Memphis, and then after my second year, I was like, no, it was my second or third year. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm just going to give me an apartment and move up to Nashville, because Memphis was getting worse and worse and worse. And I really didn't have nowhere to go, because my grandma ended up moving with one of her daughters to take care of her. So I had the house, but I really didn't have nowhere to go. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give me an apartment. I'm just going to move up here to Nashville. And the week I signed my lease, my grandma passed away. Like, she passed, it was almost simultaneous. Like, I signed the lease to my place, and she passed away like a couple of days later. So to me, it was almost like she was just like finally relieved that, okay, he's on his own, he's gonna be fine, kind of thing. I mean, it might not have been, it just might be a timing thing, but that's what I always felt like. When she saw that I had my own place, I was starting to become my own man. She's like, okay, I can rest now. And like I said, literally right after I signed my lease, she ended up passing away. You know what I'm saying? So I guess, so she passed away, and it was I'll never forget it. Like I said, it was the week of my finals. I was getting ready to take my final exams, and my brother called me and said, "Man, she gone." And it was my third year up there. It was my third year in college, and I was getting ready to take my final exams, and my brother called and said she was gone. So, you know, so she passed away. You know, I dealt with that, and the way I dealt with that was drinking, smoking. You know what I'm saying? My grandma, that was my rock. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, I hated her when I was younger, but when I got older, I really did love her. You know what I'm saying? Taking care of her and all that. Got to know her a little bit more, and I really did love her when she passed on. And I know she loved me. And everybody in the family, they used to get mad at me because they like I was her favorite. Because like I said, my grandma was a-hole. It ain't no other way to put it. She was so mean. All my cousins, but she loved me, and she would bend over backwards to help me. But anybody else, she was like, F them. And I pardon my language, but that's how my grandma was. But for me, she always took care of me. And I never knew why. But I guess it was just she saw what God was going to do for me ahead of time. So when she passed on, I really kind of started spiral. So that's when I started drinking, even though, like I said, I didn't like alcohol. I started drinking heavy. I started getting more into the drugs, the smoking all the time. Like I said, started popping the ecstasy pills. Stuff I said I would never do, I just started doing it, you know. So then, in the midst of all that, I get a phone call one day from DCS out of Memphis. And I'm like, what's this about? You know, and they're like, hey, you know, at this time, my brother was 14, just about to, I think he had just turned 15. So that means I was 20. So I'm 20-year-old, you know, third year of college. So I'm just a broke college student. Had my own apartment, but that's about all I had going for. I had my own apartment, had my own car. That was all I had going for me. But I was broke, working at Taco Bell, paying for that. You know, paying check to check and work study and stuff. So I get a call from DCS, and they're like, hey, we have your brother in custody. You know, if you don't come get him, we're going to have to put him in the juvenile system, and he's going to be in there till he's 18. So then that hit me. My grandma, I told my grandma that if I got the opportunity to do it, I'll do it. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I really didn't want to do it. Like I said, I'm a third year college student. I'm broke. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got time to be, you know, and I'm at the time I played football for the first 2 years, but I ended up getting injured, and it just kind of ended my football career. But you know, so I'm a broke college student, but I was still busy. I was, you know, working a couple of jobs. I had work study. I was doing everything I can to support myself. So I definitely have the means to support a kid. And plus, I'm 20 years old in college. So I'm like, well, I'm not stable. There's no way they're going to give me a kid. So I'm like, oh, yeah, no, I do it. So I told them to file the paperwork and whatever. And man, don't you know, I went through the system, and I legally adopted my brother at 20 years old. I adopted my 15-year-old brother. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, man, it ain't no way, and they gave it to him. I'm like, that blew up in my face kind of thing. But at the same time, I'm thinking like, man, this is my little brother. Like I said, we already had a close relationship. So I'm like, well, it's going to be just like it was when we were little. You know, when we're going to hang out, he going to come up here and kick it, see how big brother living, and, you know, it's going to be all good, you know. And I'm not understanding he was traumatized. You know, he just as traumatized as I was, if not more, because he went through a few more things. And, you know, and he wasn't in activities like I was, and he wasn't as smart as I was. He didn't have the mental capacity that I had. So it was a little bit rougher on him. So where me, I took all the positive, and I was able to absorb all the positive from the neighborhood and the situation I went in. He did the opposite. He absorbed all the negative. So everything he was, even to this day, his mindset is very negative. You know what I'm saying? So he had it a little bit rougher, and I was not prepared at all to deal with this traumatized teen. I was not. I'm thinking, I'm big brother, he little brother, we gonna come over, we gonna hang out, and it's gonna be all good. And I'm telling y'all something, it wasn't. It wasn't. I was sadly mistaken. And man, we got into it from time to time. He always respected me, but there was a couple of times where I had to put my hands on him and I had to show him that I was big bro. And he had failed. I think he was when I first got him, we started the process, he was 15. When I finally got him, he was like 16, I believe. Yeah, he was about 16. So, and he had failed a couple of times, so he was way behind in grades. So he was like 17. I think he was like in the 9th grade or something like that at 17 years old. So he was like way behind, but he was a freshman. So, and I remember telling him, I remember this one day he was into this dude over this girl. And I told him like, man, he's like, man, I'm going there and I'm gonna have to put my hands on dude. I like, look here, bro. I said, man, you are a 17-year-old in the 9th grade. I said, they are looking for any reason to kick you out of school. I said, do not go and fight this guy, because you go fight this guy, they're going to kick you out of school, bro. Don't do it. All right, man, I ain't going to do it. So I go off to school. I go off to class. I get a call, you know what I'm saying, middle of my class schedule. I had another class coming up. I remember I was supposed to take a test. I get a call, Mr. Stewart, your brother's in the office. He just got in a fight. We're kicking him out of school. You got to come get him. Oh, man, I was pissed. So I had to leave my class, couldn't take my test, to go get him out of school. And it turns out one of the guys that I had played football with at TSU, actually, he was like one of the helpers at the school or whatever. So when I saw him, he was like, oh, what's up, man? I said, what's going on? He said, man, this your brother? I said, yes. He said, oh, man, this boy was up there acting a fool. So he told me, so I knew exactly what happened because he was the one that broke it up. So, man, we got to the house, man, I had to put my hands on him. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't prepared to deal with that, you know, and I wasn't in a situation, to be honest, to really deal with that. I can't even believe the state gave me that. So now he's kicked out of school. He really ain't got nothing to do. But while he was in school, because he was much older than the other kids, they kind of looked up to him. So he kind of developed a relationship with a lot of the kids, a lot of little misfit bad kids. So like I told you, by this time I had developed like a heavy weed problem. Like, I wouldn't call it weed problem, but I smoked a lot. I was like Snoop. Like, and no, I went to bed with a blunt in my hand and I woke up with one in my hand. Like, I smoked weed all day, every day. Everything I did, I had to be how to do it. You know what I'm saying? That's just how I was dealing with life kind of thing. So I was always smoking weed. And then, of course, when he came up, he was smoking weed as well. So then these little friends that he made while he was in school, they like smoking weed. So my house, like I said, now is when I first got my brother, I had a roommate, a female roommate, but she ended up moving out, so it was just me and my brother. So we got like a bachelor pad. It's me and my little brother, and we just kicking it. You know what I'm saying? We had the latest, I was working my butt off, so we had like the latest games. We always had weed. There was always girls around, so we just had the spot. So all the kids like hanging out in my spot, and they all like smoking weed. You know what I'm saying? So when I was smoking weed, I would buy like an ounce. You know what I'm saying? I would just buy an ounce. It wasn't no point of buying a dime or a dub, because I knew I was just going to go right back to the drug dealer. And it's cheaper. The more you buy, the cheaper it is. So I just buy an ounce at the beginning of the week because I knew I was going to smoke it before the week was out. Well, once he moved up and his little friends were smoking the stuff, they was all like, hey, let me get a little bit, let me get a little. Now, what I would do, I would call what you call eyeballing. I know all you good people don't know what that is, but it's when you just kind of, you know what I'm saying, you just kind of take something out and you kind of measure it in your brain, with your eyes that, you know what I'm saying, this is about a gram or whatever. And that's what I would do. I would just pinch out of my bag. I would give these guys, you know what I'm saying, a little bit here, a little bit there, $5 or $10. But it got to a point where word just kind of got around like, hey, you want some weed? Go to Gerald's brother kind of thing. And man, I just got to what I would get an ounce, and like within a day it'd be gone because I done like nickel and dimed it the whole time, and I was just eyeballing it. So it got to a point where I was going back to my drug dealer like every other day, kind of thing. And he was like, man, look, and he was actually a college student himself. He was like, man, look, you can't be running over here all the time. You gonna run me hot. He said, so I tell you what I do. He said, I give you a quarter pound and see what you can do with that. See how long that'll last you. So I'm like, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to give me a scale, because nickel and diamond, sometimes you might skimp somebody, but sometimes you might get way more. I'm like, well, if I'm going to do that, then I'm just actually give me a scale. So I went and bought like some baggies, and I got an extra scale, and I wasn't like, oh, I'm finna be Scarface, some big drug dealer. I was just like, man, this is pay for my weed habit, and I'd rather them get it from me. And that was my mindset. And of course, it was all wrong, but my mindset was like, man, I'd rather them come get weed from me than go and try to get it from somebody else, because I know I'm going to do them right. I know they ain't going to be in no danger. And that was why the kids loved my house. It wasn't, and the one thing about me, even in my house today, I don't do drama. I don't do negativity. It's not going to be no arguing and fighting. If you're going to be in my house, you're going to sit your butt down. We're going to chill. We're going to smoke. We're going to laugh. We're going to watch Chappelle show, because that was our show back then. We're going to laugh off Chappelle show and just have a good time, good peaceful time. That's what my house was. So that's why all the kids knew, because they knew they were safe, because nobody wanted to test me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't even that I was an aggressive dude, just nobody wanted to see how aggressive I would be. So that's what it was. So like I said, so we established this relationship with these little kids, and they just started coming in. So I get this quarter pounder, and now I got this quarter pound. It's a lot cheaper, so I'm able to give it away for a little bit cheaper. So I'm giving out these fat sacks. And the word just got around like, man, hey, if you want a fat sack, go to Gerald's brother. So I got the quarter pound, and within a week, it was gone. So the guy was like, man, I didn't think you'd get rid of it that fast. He said, I'll tell you what, I give you a half a pound. So I got a half a pound, and a week that was gone. Like the more it went, like no matter how much I got, it was gone. So next thing you know, I worked my way up to pounds, and I'm getting pounds of weed, and like within a week or so, maybe usually didn't take more than a week, but within a week, when I really at my height, I go through just selling nickels and dimes. Now I wasn't doing wholesale. I wasn't. That's a whole nother game. I wasn't wholesale. I was just a nickel or dime dude, college dude, just trying to make a couple of bucks. Really, my own game plan was only just to make enough money to pay for my weed, so I wouldn't have to buy weed. I can pretty much smoke for free. But it just turned into, like I said, my clientele kept growing and everything, to where like I was like the guy in the area. So next thing you know, man, I'm getting pounds. I'm getting 2-3 pounds, $400-$500 a piece, and I'm selling, you know what I'm saying, dime bags, quarter sack, and stuff like that. And if you want to do the math, it's been a while, but it's 16 ounces in a pound, and it's 28 grams in an ounce. So you do the math, multiply that 16 times 28, and then multiply that by 5, and that's how much money I was making. You know what I'm saying? If y'all want to do the math, y'all can do it, but that's how much money I was making each pound. And I was going through like 2 or 3 of them a week. So, I mean, it was, I was doing pretty good. So, man, it got to a point, man, we had the money, then I got sucked into that life. You know what I'm saying? We had the money, had the girl. I had this nice apartment out in Bellevue, Tennessee. The apartment had like a pool and a jacuzzi, and then another pool, and we had like the prime spot that was right beside the lake. So I mean, it was suave, man. So, and that went on for about 2-3 years, man. And I honestly felt like I was living my best life. Everything a man could want, man had. You know, I had the cars, the clothes. I got any girls I wanted, and like, you know what I'm saying, all that. So I had all this stuff, and I thought I would be happy with this stuff, but I realized, like, even with all that stuff, even with all these young dudes around me, I had to set up to where I got to a point where my brother and his friends, they was the one that's doing the selling. I just got the stuff. So, excuse me, I was more the distributor. It got to a point where I didn't do the day-to-day, hand-to-hand stuff. I really just kind of got it and let them, you know, deal with it, you know, and I gave them the money for it, whatever, depending on what they sold or whatnot. Or I just gave them free weed. Most kids, they didn't care about money. They just wanted free weed. So that's what I would do, you know. So, but it got to the point, like I said, we had everything. My brother had a car. I had a car. You know what I'm saying? There was the other guy living with us. He ended up moving in 19. He had a car. Like I said, we had this nice apartment, bachelor pad. If you came over I'm talking about like y'all 24/7. I kid you not, and I'm not even just saying this for my story to hype myself up. 24/7. You came to my house, it was dudes there, it was girls there, and it was going down. I don't care when you came through. You know what I'm saying? I barely slept, and I was, like I said, I was still working. I was still, you know what I'm saying, going to school, putting myself through school, still working and everything. So, man, I really didn't even sleep for like a couple of years. Like, I take naps. I might get an hour or two of sleep here or there, and just kept flowing. I was just always going. It wasn't when I got a Saturday when I was off, and I could sleep in. That's kind of like where I recharged my battery. But for doing the week, most of the week, man, I was grinding. You know what I'm saying? And everything was good. And, you know, I thought everything was good, but I still realized that even though I had everything that I thought I wanted, everything that a man could want, what I thought, I still wasn't happy. You know what I'm saying? Around that time too, about that time, well, I forgot about a few years before that, I met, at the time she was just my baby mama. You know what I'm saying? And she was, in my eyes, she was just another one in the flock, but she was the main one. She was the main girl, and then everybody else was a side chick. So she was my main girlfriend, but I had all these little side chicks as well that I was messing around with. Cause like I told you, I wasn't always a great guy. So I was so ignorant that I was doing stuff like that and thought I was really living a life, and I really wasn't. So I had all this stuff going on. I had the drug dealing going on. Hadn't finished school up quite yet. I was in my senior year, my last year. I actually, because I partied so much and I got so deep in the drug life, it actually took me 6.5 years to graduate college. So where I should have been 4, it took me 6.5. So I hadn't graduated yet because I was only taking like 12 hours of classes so I can, spend the other time, doing my dough. I took just enough to where I can stay a full-time student and keep my scholarships. I mean, not my scholarship, my grants and all that stuff, my money from the state. But I wasn't really working to get out of college kind of thing. So that went on for like a year and a half, and I'm trying to speak on my time. Like I told you, when I get into the story, man, it's so much to it. But I want to get to the main idea before it get too late. So that went on for a couple of years, and like I said, that party did all this stuff. But it was coming up about 2003. This is where I'm bringing it up to where God stepped in. So about 2003 rolls around. Like I said, we partying, drinking, smoking, doing everything, but I was always unhappy. Like when I was around my crew and everybody was around and we was kicking it, we had the girls, I was the man, I was happy. But when I was by myself, I was really sad. Like I was really sad and I was depressed. Used to think about killing myself all the time. And I used to think about like, what's the point of my life? What's the purpose of my life? I got all this stuff and I'm still not happy. Everything that the world tell you that you need or that you should have, you would be happy. And I wasn't. I was, like I said, I was happy when I was enjoying it, but when I was by myself, when I was truly by myself and reflected on my life, I was miserable. And I remember thinking several times, like, how did I get out of North Memphis, get away from North Memphis and still end up in the drug life? How did I get, get away from all the drugs and the stuff that that was in Memphis, escape all that, and then come here, have a clean slate, and still end up doing it anyway. So I was just miserable, and I was like, what's the point of my life? Because when people went around, I was depressed. So I'm like, what's the point of my life? I should just take my own life. And I thought about this several times. I was depressed. So that went on for a while. But, so I just kept it going to keep up appearances, put a smile on my face when everybody was around. But really inside, I was hurting. I was hurting. And I didn't realize it was spiritually. Because at that point, like I said, I was about 23 then. That was 2003. So I was 23 when this point was happening. So I hadn't been to church in like 5 years. Now, every once in a while, I was stepping to church on Easter or something like that. But seriously, going to church and having a church I can call home and going to church, or I couldn't even tell you the last time I had opened a Bible and read a Bible. But going to church on a consistent basis, like it had probably been like 5 years. And matter of fact, at that point, during that time, once it really kicked in when I got in college and I started experiencing sex a lot more. That's when it really kicked in that I was molested. I really, honestly, and I know a lot of times y'all hear these stories like, how can the kids not say something? I really didn't even realize that I had been raped and molested when I was a child. Like I would see advertising like, hey, if somebody touch you like this, or see advertising about molestation, and I'd be like, man, I feel sorry for them kids. And I didn't even realize I was one of them. Like that's how far back it was. It wasn't until I really got in college that I really understood a relationship between a man and a woman, how a relationship is supposed to be, that I realized like, oh, I had been violated for all those years. So that was another reason why I drank and smoked so much, because some nights I would be up just thinking about what these guys did to me, and I couldn't even sleep unless I got high or drunk or something and passed out. Like I really couldn't sleep. Not only was I doing the mean things, but there's a lot of nights I couldn't, even when I got to lay down, I couldn't go to sleep because I was thinking about, what had happened to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? And like I said, I can't remember all the details. Some instances where I can remember the details, but a majority of it I don't. And I guess God put that in there. That's like a fail-safe to keep our minds from crumbling from the inside out kind of thing, So that's what another reason. So at that point, I really, not only was I not going to church to read my Bible, I had convinced myself that there is no God. You know what I'm saying? Like there can't be a God. God can't be real. I can't believe my grandma made me go and worship this weird sky wizard all these years, wasting my time. You know what I'm saying? Now, again, I never was an evil dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't want y'all to get it that I was evil, but I definitely wasn't on the right path. But I was still like a good dude. I remember my one partner told me, he said, that's why I like you, bro. He said, like, you was the kindest drug dealer I ever met in my life. You know what I'm saying? He said, I just felt comfortable around you. Because I still had this father figure try to be a positive influence in people's lives, but you can't be a positive influence in somebody's life when you're doing negative. It just don't work. You're working against yourself kind of thing. I can't have these kids selling drugs for me and then saying, hey, do better for yourself kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's an oxymoron. So, but at that point, I had kind of convinced myself that there was no God because, like I said, the trauma finally kind of caught up with me And it really, you know, I really started thinking about all I've been through and what I went through and how horrible it was. And I was just like, man, there can't be a God. There can't be a God that really loves us if He'll allow something like this to happen to something innocent child, somebody He's supposed to love and protect, kind of thing. So that's why, like I said, that's why I got out of church. Every once in a while, one of my buddies like, hey man, it's Easter, let's go to church. We would go, but there was no serious commitment to church at that time. So it had been about 5 years since I had really been to church on a consistent basis or had any kind of relationship with God or really thought about God in a serious manner. So fast forward, it's 2003. It's coming up to 2003. I'm in my last semester in college, finishing up my last semester in college. So I'm right there. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, kind of thing. But I'm still depressed. It's hard. Now at this time, I had my baby mama, which is my wife now. She's my baby mama. At this point, we had 3 kids already. So now I'm taking care of her and my 3 kids, and I never let my kids live with me because I was selling dope. Because like I said, it was always craziness going around. So I didn't want my kids to live with me. So I lived out in Bellevue, and my wife lived with her sister out in North Nashville, kind of close to TSU. So, but I was paying for 2 households. I was paying her rent and you know, paying to feed the kids and get them clothes and all that stuff. That, and we was on work, you know, she was able to get welfare. And it's crazy how the welfare system worked, because even though I was in my kids' lives and I would stop by and visit, you know what I'm saying, all she did was told, you know, had to say, no, which I was in their life, but I didn't live with her. But since I didn't live with them, she was able to get, you know what I'm saying, financial assistance, like welfare and stuff like that, and food stamps and all that. So she was getting that, and plus the money that I was doing, and I was taking care of 2 households, basically. You know what I'm saying? So I had that going on. But like I said, still depressed. So it was coming toward the end of December. It was December. I never forget. It was December 2003. And I just really was feeling like I got to do something different. I didn't know what it was, but I'm like, man, I just saw the path I was on. I was so close to getting my degree, but it seemed like it was just so far away, and I didn't even know I was going to make it with the way I was living. And I was just like, man, something got to give. Something got to give. And so what happened is the first time I've heard, I ain't say I heard, but the Holy Spirit started talking to me. You know what I'm saying? And something was just like, man, you need to confess yourself. You know, you need to confess. You need to confess. And I'm like, you know, confess? Like, what I got to confess? Like, everybody knew back in the day, I was Big Wop. That was my drug name. You know, everybody knew who Big Wop was. Everybody knew I sold drugs. So what was I confessing? I never hid everything I did out in the open. There was no, like the Bible say, there was no shame there. So you know what I'm saying? So it was out in the open. There was no shame. So I'm like, what do I got to confess? But something just would bother me. Like, you need to confess. So I just kind of put it down, whatever. So Christmas come around. This is when the story kind of come to the head. This is when God really started stepping in. This started the process. So now it's 2003, December 2003. Christmas coming around. It's about the week before Christmas. So I'm like, man, it was like the job I worked at the time. I worked at this place called Clover Bottom, and what I did, I worked with like mentally retarded people, and I worked 3rd shift. So I would basically go in and we put them in a bed and we had to watch them throughout the night to make sure they didn't like die in their sleep. But we got to basically sit up and smoke weed and play video games stuff all night. So that's what I was doing. That was the job I was doing at the time. And it was paying what I thought was pretty good money at the time, like $13, which was unheard of because my first job was like $5. So I was doing that, and you know what I'm saying? So I was working, so I was basically working to get money to stay legal, so I can have money in my account, like legal money. So if I ever got, you know what I'm saying, investigated, I can like, hey, this money came from working, kind of thing. But basically the money I made from my job, I was just putting into my drug business. So that's what I was doing. So I never forget, it was the week before Christmas, and the way they had it, you was off every other weekend. No, you didn't have to work every weekend, you had to work every other weekend. So I remember it was my weekend. It was about the week before Christmas, my weekend off. So I'm like, man, these kids about to be out of school. So I'm about to go re-up and spend all my money on drugs. I put every dime in my hand and I went and re-up because I knew that with the kids been out of school, they're going to need something to do. Then so it's going to be on and popping. You know, so all the money I had, I went and I bought drugs. I spent all my money in drugs. I had no actual cash value. I had, had nothing. I just had drugs, a closet full of drugs. And I never forget, as soon as I read up, like my phone just started ringing. And, I mean, like literally. And for like a week, maybe leading up to like the couple of days before Christmas, man, I might have sold like a dime bag or a quarter sack. I was barely certain anything. And I was just like, man, what the hell is going on? Like, why did the file expected to be blowing up, you know? So it got to the point, like I said, I spent all my money. I had made just enough to pay my bills with the little sacks that I was selling, but I had nowhere near, and I still had a closet full of drugs. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? So now it's about to be Christmas. I hadn't even bought my kids nothing for Christmas yet. Because like I said, I was expecting like to sell out, basically the first couple of days, take that money, some of it to re-up, some of it buy my kids Christmas presents. But I had nothing. I had nothing but a closet full of drugs. So now I'm really depressed because it's about the Christmas, be Christmas Eve, and I ain't even bought my kids nothing. They had nothing for Christmas. So man, I was sitting there, I was depressed. Now, over the years, I've taken in strays. So I had this one, what I call strays. I've always had people living with me ever since I had my own place. And I took in this one white kid. As a matter of fact, I was talking to him earlier today, his birthday coming up Saturday. His mom had kicked him out. Him and his mom got into it, so I took him in. He was living with me. And I remember I was just sitting there in my living room, and I was down, man. It was the first time I think I was visibly depressed. Like, you can tell, like, something's going on. And the guy, he's like, man, what's going on with you, bro? And I was like, man, I'm depressed. He's like, man, you got all this? And I said, yeah. I said, man, I can't even get my kids nothing for Christmas. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, man, you're a drug dealer. All the money you're making, how you not get your kids nothing for Christmas? I said, man, I got to put in a drug. I said, but hell, I can't go to Toys R Us with a sack of weed and like, let me get these toys. I said, man, I read up and my phone started ringing. I said, I made just enough to get food and pay a couple of bills, but that's it. Like, I ain't got nothing to get my kids nothing for Christmas. He's like, man, that's messed up. He said, I see what I can do. I didn't think nothing of it. But what he did was he went and told his mom that, hey, this guy I'm staying with, like he talked to his mom, I guess he apologized or whatever, but he's like, hey, this guy I'm staying with has been taking care of me. He's in a situation where something came up and he can't buy his kids nothing for Christmas. So what his mom did, his mom went out and bought my kids stuff for Christmas. She's like, what it is? And I had my three boys. I didn't have my girls yet, but I had my three boys. And his mom went out and the day before Christmas Eve, man, his mom backed her van into up into my apartment. And she's like, hey, y'all come get this stuff out. And man, she just had a van full of toys and like bikes and stuff probably better what I would have bought them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it was nice. It was really the nicest Christmas they had. You know what I'm saying? And that really humbled me because it made me think like, hold on, man, I'm selling drugs. I'm taking all these chances, taking these risks, really putting my soul at risk. And I can't even do something as simple as buy my kids Christmas presents. Then I think about it, like, why am I really doing this? You know what I'm saying? Why am I this? I said, matter of fact, this is the very life I tried to avoid. Well, how did I end up back here? You know what I'm saying? And see, that's what the devil will do to you. He had you so blind to what's really going on in the background that you don't see. Like, now I look back on it, it was obvious that, you know what I'm saying, that I was on the wrong path. But then I was thinking like, man, I was living a life. But that really opened my eyes up like, this not really where it's at. If I can't do something as simple as buy my kids Christmas presents, then why am I doing this? Why am I taking all these risks and chances? My freedom. I'm just about to graduate from college, and you know what I'm saying. The last thing I need to get arrested for drugs because I'm driving around, car with pounds in the trunk. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, the last thing I need to get pulled over, and then they go all their college, all this money I done paid into college and buying books and all that is gone out the window. What am I really doing? I said, not to mention, and it's just the fact that a little white lady, and that's how I took it. Like this little white lady had to come and buy my kids Christmas present, and I'm supposed to be this big dude, this big bad drug dealer. Who am I really? Like, what am I doing with my life? And it really got to thinking. I just really sat and thinking, and guess what, y'all? That little voice started getting a little louder to me. You need to confess. You need to confess. And it just bothered me. So from there, so my kids had a great Christmas. Still, nobody came through buying the drugs the week out there. So I was broke all up to the end of the year. But this little voice kept on telling me, you need to confess, you need to confess, you need to confess. So finally, man, I never forget it. It was December 31st, 2003. It was about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't sleep because this voice was just it just started getting louder and louder and louder. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you need to confess, you need to confess. I'm like, I ain't got nothing to confess. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, you know what? I like, God, if this really is God, I like, man, you need to show up and show me without a doubt that you're real. Because if you don't show up and show me without a doubt that you're real, then I'm going to go deep in this drug. Like, I ain't going to have nothing else to do with you. Oh, I forgot a vital part. So a couple of weeks before this happened, I'm sorry. Now it's been 20 years. So one part, this is very important, actually. So but right before that happened, when things were still good, before I went into this drought, right before that happened, this guy, I was doing so good, it was the guy that would get weed from me. But he sold coke. That was his thing. He sold coke. So he came to me one day and made a business proposition. And he was like, man, look, and all this money you're making off just selling weed, he's like, imagine how much more money you can make if you start selling coke. You know what I'm saying? And he just laid out, he gave me this game plan, and we was going to kind of put our money together, buy a house out in North Nashville, because he had a spot where he sold his coke at. He's like, man, we can put our money together, buy a house. He said, you got the weed connect, I got the coke connect. You know what I'm saying? Then me, through selling weed, you know what I'm saying, I come across people that had pills, you know what I'm saying, all shrooms and all that other stuff. So not only did I have access to weed, I had access to pills and everything else that people was into at that time. Thank God meth wasn't around. Meth was just getting started right at the end of my career, my drug career. Thank God. Because I probably, especially me being a chemist, I probably got into it if I did. So, but he gave me this proposition, and he was like, man, this is what we can do. We can make all this money and go 50-50. But see, the thing was, because of what I saw cocaine do to my mom and the way it destroyed my life and the trauma it put me through, and you know what I'm saying, and I saw that people that buy coke, people was, you know what I'm saying, like I saw what my mama did, you know what I'm saying, people would sell their souls for that stuff. They really, literally do sell their soul when they're addicted to that stuff. So I saw the effect it can have, and not only that, with me dealing with like weed and pills and none of the really hard stuff, it wasn't as bad. But when you deal with like coke and meth and crack and heroin, it's a whole different environment. It's a whole nother crowd of people that you have to deal with. It's really a whole different realm of evil. And I really didn't want to dip off into that. But like I said, at the time, by this time I had my 3 kids. I was still taking care of my brother, all these other young men that was living with me. I was taking care of them. So I had a lot of people to provide for. So when the guy gave me this offer, I actually considered it. You know what I'm saying? Like, as I said, even though I vowed I would never touch coke, like what he's saying makes sense. And, man, let me think about it. You know what I'm saying? I said, man, that's a big decision for me. I said, let me think about it. He said, all right. And he said, but I want to get set up by the spring, so you need to let me know as soon as possible, because we got to find the house and we got to do all this, you know what I'm saying, blah, blah, blah. So, all right. So fast forward, now it's December 31st. Like I said, I got this thing going on. Hey, you need to confess, you need to confess, you need to confess. And like I said, I didn't feel that God was real. So I was like, look, God, if you really real, you need to show up and show me without a doubt you're real, because if not, I'm going to take up this guy's offer and I'm going to go deep in this drug game. And I know what kind of life I'm going to live. And I know I'm not going to have time for you. Because that's the thing with me. You know, y'all see, y'all know me with this ministry. I'm all in. Whatever I do, I'm all in. I don't half-ass anything. If I go in it, I'm all in it 100%. So if I knew that if I got into selling coke with this dude, that I was going to be in 100% and I wasn't going to have no time for God. So that's what I said, God, show up and show me that you're real without a doubt, or I'm going to start selling this coke and I ain't going to have nothing else to do with you. So again, that's when the whole, you need to confess started working. So it was working on me. It was December 31st. It was early that morning, about 2-3 o'clock. I couldn't sleep because I had this nagging in me, just like in my spirit, just like, hey, you need to confess, you need to confess, you need to confess. So finally, I'll never forget, I got up, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I got up and I just went, and I had a glass table that I broke my dope down on in my living room. I'll never forget. And I sat at that table, the same spot I would normally be breaking my dope down there. I sat at the table and I just started writing. And I started everything that I knew I was doing that I shouldn't have been doing, everything that I knew that I was doing that I should have been doing, that I was basically confessing. And I just wrote, and when I got done, and I just started writing. I didn't even think, I just wrote. I was just confessing, like pouring my heart out on this paper. And when I got done writing, I had 5 pages. It was 5 pages, 5 full pages of stuff that I was doing at the time that I knew I should have been doing because it was all against God. Now, again, I wasn't in the mindset like this is against God. So it's just stuff that was against, subconsciously, I wrote down stuff that I knew I should have been doing because, like I said, I went to church my whole life. So the word of God was in me. I just had rejected it and put it on the back burner like most of us do. So I write this down. So I get done. I'm like, all right, what am I going to do with this letter? I wrote this letter. What am I going to do with it? And then it was just like, again, the spirit, I didn't hear no voice. It was just like, you need to send it to somebody. So I started thinking, like, who could I send this through? Now, y'all remember, and the reason why I told the story about me being a Boy Scout, my Scoutmaster. Now, when I was a couple of years before I graduated college, I needed a car, and I couldn't get one. So my Scoutmaster actually co-signed for me to get a brand new Kia. When Kias first came out, that was horrible cars when they first came out. But it was when they first came out, they had that little Sophia. And he co-signed for me to get a brand new one. I remember getting that car, bro, and it had 23 miles on it. I mean, spec brand new. So he had co-signed for me to get that car. But over the years, man, I just, got caught up in the drug life and all that stuff. And I just stopped making the payment, because I used to send them checks, like they make the payment. I just stopped making the payments. I just did, I didn't have the money to do it. I just used the money to put in my business. I was like, well, he got it, kind of thing. So it had been like 2-3 years since I had really talked to him, because I basically left him with this car note and like I said, a horrible person, y'all. So I basically left him with this car note for this brand new car that he had to pay because he co-signed on it. So and like I said, he was a very spiritual guy. He actually, his own son had at one point got into drugs, and he basically disowned him. So I'm like, man, if he disowned his own biological son, what are they gonna do for this adopted dude that he just kind of took under his wing? So they were like, send it to him. So that's what I did. I literally got up, got an envelope, had some envelope stamp. I always keep envelopes and stamps around. Got an envelope stamp, wrote his name on it, wrote his address on it, put it in the mailbox. I left out and went in the mailbox like 2-3 in the morning. So I went and put it in the mailbox, and I never forget the peace I felt when I did that. I really felt like, people say sometimes you just get off your chest. I feel like I finally got that weight off my chest of all the stuff I was doing, and I just put it in the mailbox. And when I did, I felt that relief. I felt that relief that I had finally got, got that out of my chest. So that day, my phone started ringing. It was right before New Year's Eve. I never forget it. My phone, after I mailed out that letter, when I woke up that day, I got me a couple hours sleep in. When I got up, my phone started ringing. So guess what, y'all? I was back and popping. So my phone started ringing off the hook. Everybody called in. I guess they were getting ready for the new year. So for the next 2-3 days, man, it was nonstop. So all the drugs I had for the last couple of weeks that I couldn't get rid of, I got rid of in like a day. So when I got rid of it, I went and read up, got rid of that in like a day. Went and read up, got rid. I was going through like 2-3 pounds in like a day. It was insane. I was making so much money. So I'm like, now I'm back happy. Like, oh man, I'm doing good. So it was going good. And this went on for about a good 5 or 6 weeks. I just went, man, and it was crazy. Every time I went to re-up, I was getting better dope for cheaper prices. It was so weird, because normally you get better dope, the prices go up. The quality of the drugs was going up, but the price was going down. So it was just a weird, and like, man, I just had this, all of a sudden I just had this confidence about me again. And like, man, I was getting the girls I wanted, and everything was back to normal, so to speak. And I had completely forgot about that whole God thing and talking to God and all that. I just threw that in the back of my mind. I was back on top, so to speak. So this goes on about a few weeks, and then my guy come back to me again. This guy named Rick, he came to me again. He said, hey, man, he said, what happened? What's up? You told me to give you a few weeks. He said, what's up? We going to get this house or not? He said, man, because we need to go and get started if we're going to do this. And I was just like, man, I said, because like I said, I really didn't want to do it. I knew about the coke was another animal. Like, I can deal with weed and pills and stuff, but the coke, that was something different. I said, man, I said, honestly, bro, I said, man, I'm really doing too good right now to be messing with coke. I said, I'm making the money now. I don't really need the coke. Like, because I was making buku though at that point. And like I said, everything was going good. So I was like, man, I don't really need, I said, look, it ain't a definite no yet. I said, just give me a couple of more weeks, bro. Just give me a couple more weeks and I'll let you know for sure. Now, this is coming up to, it's about February, about this time. So now this is where the story comes. So now it's February 13th, which is going to be tomorrow, celebration. It's February 13th. I'll never forget it. I was at work in my place working with the retarded people and whatnot. And it was February 13th. It was a Friday. It was my weekend off, and it was a Friday. It was Friday the 13th. It was my weekend off. And I remember going in that morning, and man, I was just in a great mood. Like, everything that I was needing to happen was happening. Everything I was wanting to happen was happening. It was just like, man, God had paved the way for me to sell this dope and make this money and live my life the way I wanted to live my life. That was my mindset. So I never forget, I got in and we was doing our normal thing. We put the guys to bed and we was sitting around. And sometimes we would sit around, we would play cards. Sometimes we play dominoes. Sometimes we play video games. I mean, we just depend on how the night go. And sometimes we just sit around and have like these theological discussions kind of thing. And there was this white guy there named Randy. I never forget him. He was a weird dude because he was just one of those dudes, like, he might be just off in the corner playing a guitar or something, or he might come in and join the group and say some weird stuff and walk off, man. He was just a weird cat. He was cool, but he was just a weird cat. And I never forget, I was in a good mood. We were playing cards, we were playing spades, and I was dealing, and I was in such a good mood. I was just throwing people cards around. I was flipping people cards over, and everybody can tell, like, I was in a good mood. I'm like, man, what's up with you? I said, man, I'm in a good mood. Like, why are you in such a good mood? I said, man, because I feel like I'm enlightened. And they're like, what do you mean enlightened? I said, I feel like I'm enlightened. I'm like, what you mean? I said, man, I feel like God wants me to sell dope. And when I said that, folks, man, they just bust out laughing. They said, man, that's the dumbest thing y'all ever heard. I'm like, what do you mean that God wants you to sell dope? I said, I'm for real, bro. I said, go look what's happening. So I started explaining how everything was going good. And see, not only that, another thing that was happening, like I told y'all, most of the guys sold dope for me was kids. That was young kids. They was in high school, and they were basically selling to like friends or whatever. So one of my rules was, if you sold dope for me, you had to have perfect attendance, and you had to have at least a 3.0 GPA. So I gave them like standards. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I was trying to be a positive influence, but I was being a negative influence at the same time. They kind of cancel each other out. But these kids, because they wanted to be and not click so bad, and because they want to be, you know what I'm saying, around me so bad and be a part of what we had, they was doing it. So these kids, when they first started selling dope for me, you know what I'm saying, inquired about selling dope for me, they had like 1.7 GPAs. A couple of them was dropouts, you know what I'm saying? And after they got their grades up, and after they started studying dope for me, man, these dudes went to 4.0 GPAs. I mean, they was applying to college. You know what I'm saying? They was like perfect attendance. They went from being like the worst students in the school to like the best students in the school. I mean, to the point where one guy's mom, because the mom had kicked him out because he was doing so horrible, and this guy's mom actually like came over like, I need to see what's going on. Like, I've been trying to get my son to do this, you know, his whole life, and all of a sudden he moves in with you, and I hear he's this straight A student and all that. Like, what the heck is going on? Now, I couldn't tell his mama that he was selling dope for me. You know what I'm saying? Basically, like, ma'am, you know, I understand the importance of education, and I told them I don't hang around losers, that if they gonna hang around me, then they gotta, you know, get their stuff together. And that's kind of how I left it, but it was really because he was selling dope for me. So these kids went from, like I said, dropouts or about to fail or get kicked out of school to actually graduate, you know, applying to college, you know, 3.0 GPAs for the dean's list and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm explaining that to these guys, and like, man, I'm having this influence on these guys, and every time I go back, I get better prices. I'm making all this money. I'm taking care of, you know, 2 households. Like, everything is perfect. I'm like, man, I think God really want me to sell dope. And so Randy, you know, that guy, he came over. He said, man, that's the dumbest I've heard. He said, there's no way God wants you to sell dope. I was like, why you say that? He said, man, because he said God wouldn't be involved in nothing like that. I'm like, but look at how this positive influence I'm having over these kids. I said, I tell you what, man, if I got to sell dope that get these kids to have a better life, then you know what, I make that sacrifice. And he said, you know what, man? He said, that sounds good. He said, but this is how I know God is not involved in that. He said, because God likes obedience over sacrifice. He said, yes, you might be making a sacrifice to sell the dope to help these kids out. He said, but you're not, you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing. He said, that's how I know God is nowhere near what you're doing. God has nothing to do with that. He said, that's the devil fooling you. And if you don't get out, you know what I'm saying? He said something to the fact that if you don't get out before it's too late, it's going to be too late, if you know what I mean. And he just left me with that. He said, but he hit me with that. God likes obedience over sacrifice. So again, I'm arrogant. I'm like, man, whatever, man. I ain't trying to hear that. You know what I'm saying? He blowing my high. Cause we was always high at work. So I was like, man, you blowing my high, ain't trying to hear that. And that was it. Didn't think nothing of it. So I got off that day, Friday the 13th. Never forget, I got off. It was my weekend off. I went and read up, you know what I'm saying? I got ready for the weekend. Had my whole closet full of dope again. Now I'm getting ready for the weekend. I'm finna go kick it because things have been going good. So that day passed. I went home, got some rest. So I got up. Now, next day was Valentine's Day. So it was Valentine's. It was a Saturday. I never forget. It was Valentine's Day. It was on a Saturday. And at the time, again, not bragging, not trying to hype myself up, but I had like 4 different dates that day. You know what I'm saying? So I had dates lined up. I started off with breakfast with my baby mama, which is my wife. And she hates when I tell this part of the story. She gets so mad. I hope she's not watching the video. She gets so mad. But it started off with her. And then I had like a couple of others throughout the day. And then, you know what I'm saying, I ended it with her as well. So she was like the main course. You know, she started and I ended and we spent the night together. But, you know, I had like 2 or 3 others like throughout the day. So what happened was in the middle, so I had it set up. I would pick one up and drop off, pick one up, drop off, that kind of thing. So in the middle of that, this guy, he was one of the guys that offered me to sell coke. His name was Rick. He had these guys that was his goons. One of them name was, he called himself Man G. His name was Mandrikas. And his cousin, friend, Yoshan. So they had, I noticed right before this happened, about 2-3 weeks, they started hanging out in my house. Now again, everybody that hang out with us, we was always drinking, smoking, partying, or whatever. But these dudes, they just, well, man, your son that hang out with him was just man. But he'd come over like, hey, man, I'm just going to kick with y'all. And then he just sit in the corner and watch. Like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know what he was doing, but he just sit in the corner. He never really got involved. You know, he might smoke, but he just sit there. And I remember at one point I was thinking like, man, is this dude watching me? But I was so arrogant at the time. I had my pistol, I had a gun and all that. So I was so arrogant at the time. I was like, man, no, this nigga wouldn't try me. He wouldn't be that dumb to try me. So I just didn't pay no attention to him. So fast forward, like I said, it's Saturday. We got Valentine's Day going on. And also, I know I said I had a pistol, but I actually could legally carry. I had a handgun carrying permit. So since I had never been arrested or anything or never been charged with anything, I can actually legally carry a handgun on my side. Like I had a holster and everything. And it was a sweet gun too. It was like chrome. The gun itself was chrome. The handle was like made out of pearl. And like the actions and the trigger and everything was gold. It was like something from a Nicolas Cage movie or some stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I had my pills. I'm like, man, this dude wouldn't try me, whatever. You know, so fast forward, this Saturday come around. I got all these dates going on. And man hit me up. And he's like, hey, man, I'm in a situation. I need you to help me out. I'm like, what's going on? He said, man, it's some white people I want to rob. This is what he told me. He said, it's some white people I want to rob Monday. Man, this was Saturday. It was doing Valentine's Day. He said, some white people I want to rob Monday, but I can't get bullets to my gun because of my record. Now, this dude, he was, like I said, he was a thug. Like, he had the tattoos on his face. He robbed dudes. He didn't shot dudes. I mean, in and out of jail. He was one of those kind of dudes. You know what I'm saying? So he was like, man, I can't, because of my record, I can't get bullets for this gun. Would you go with me to get some bullets? So I'm thinking, now I'm logically thinking like, man, it ain't nowhere in the world I'm gonna do something like that. But I was so far away from God and so arrogant. I'm like, I'm sure. I said, tell you what, man, I got this girl I just dropped off. If you come scoop me, my brother need the car so he can go make some runs. So I tell you what, you come scoop me up and I'll leave him my car. Cause his car, I think his tag he hadn't got his tag. Something had happened where his car was down. So I said, well, you come scoop me up. I'm gonna leave him my car. You come scoop me up. I go get the bullets for you. You know what I'm saying? Whatever. So he comes scoop me up. Now I got dope in my pocket because just in case somebody called while I was out. I got money in my pocket. I didn't take my pistol with me. I left my pistol at the house. You know what I'm saying? And this guy comes scoop me up. Now, normally when we hanging out, like I said, we smoking and we tripping and this dude named Man G, he can actually rap pretty good. So we might be freestyling something. But I got in the car and it was like eerily silent. Like it wasn't no music on and everybody was just kind of quiet and looking straight forward. And I'm like, man, what the hell is going on? I felt it, but it was weird, but I was just like, whatever. So I get in the car and it was a man was in the back seat with me. And there was a guy in the front seat and then there was the driver. So it was 3 guys and then me. So I get in the car and these guys ain't talking. So for the first time, I heard the Spirit speak to me clearly. You know what I'm saying? And next thing you know, man, I just had this sensation come over me. I can't even explain it. It's come over me. And I just felt the urge to start writing. So I always keep, if you know me, you know, I keep pen and paper in my pocket at all time, just in case I get some kind of idea. And I just took the pen and paper out and I just started writing. You know what I'm saying? I started writing and I wasn't even paying attention when I was writing. It was just like when I was writing a confession letter. I just started writing. So I'm writing and writing. Now I lived in Bellevue at the time and the place where we was going to get the bullets was on Dixon Road. So it was about, depending on traffic, 20 to 30 minute drive. And so I'm just writing the entire, I didn't talk to the guy didn't talk to me. I was just writing. So next thing you know, I just kind of zoned out. And next thing you know, we pulled up into this sporting goods store on Dixon Road. And we pulled up, and I remember we stopped. They were like, man, we're here. And I kind of snapped out like, what? I'm like, man, how we get here already? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, all right, whatever. So I took the paper, didn't even read it, been paid. I just like, that was weird. I just stuck it in my pocket. You know what I'm saying? So went into the bullet store to get the bullets, and there was a white guy at the counter. And I never forget, I was like, man, I need a box of 22 bullets. You know what I'm saying? I just kind of put the money on the counter like I need a box of 22 bullets. And the guy looked at me like, nah. And I'm like, no, what do you mean no? He didn't ask for my ID or nothing. He just looked at me and said no. Now, of course, him being a white guy, you know, I like the people try to do these days. Oh, he must be racist. You know what I'm saying? So I said, man, he must be racist kind of thing. I said, man, why can't I get the bullets? I pulled out, I told her, I said, man, I got my handgun license. I laid it on the counter. I got the money. I'm like, what's the problem? Why you won't take my money? My money not good enough for you? He's like, sir, I'm gonna tell you what, you got about 3 seconds to leave my store or I'm calling the police. Now, I didn't know, like I said, I had dope on me. I had money on me. I don't know what the guys in the car had. So I didn't want them to call the police. So I just started cursing. I'm like, man, you racist, blah, 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 blah. And he said, man, 1, 2, too. So I like, all right, forget it. So I grabbed my ID, grabbed my money, and I walked out the store. So I got back to the car, and the dude was like, man, where the bullets at? I said, man, he wasn't even selling to me. He said, bro, you lying, man. You done had a drive all over there, and blah, blah, blah. I said, man, look. I said, bro, I went in to get the bullets. The guy went selling the bullets. I don't know why the guy went selling the bullets, but he went selling the bullets. He said, man, you got your handgun license. You had the money. Why was it? I said, bro, I don't know. So he just like, I can tell he was like physically upset, but it was like, it wasn't even like, you know what I'm saying, just mad, like, oh man, waste my time. Like he was mad. Like I had just ruined his life or something. Like he was pissed. And I said, look here, bro. I said, man, I came over here. I took time. I missed one of my dates to come over here to roll with you. I went to get the bullets. Dude was selling the bullets. I don't know why the hell dude was selling the bullets. He was selling the bullets. Take me back to my house before we have a problem. So I started getting upset, like, oh, no, man, it's just cool, bro. He said, man, I really need those bullets, bro. I said, man, I don't know what to tell you, bro. So he was like, all right, man. So they took me back to the house, and they took me back to the house. I finished out my day. Didn't think none of it, you know, and because, hold on, y'all. I done talked too long. My battery about to die, but I was prepared. So because I had went with him, like I said, I ended up missing one of my dates. And the girl that I had that date with, she was gonna be like the extra special. Like I had my baby mom, but my side chicks or whatever, the girls I was trying to make her, she was actually trying to make her a side chick. So I hadn't actually had been out with her before. So she was the one of the main ones I wanted to go out with that day. And so I called her, like, look, man, I had something come up. Would you mind, coming by tomorrow, which was Sunday night, February 15th? She said, no, I don't mind. I actually got some stuff to do anyway, so that'll work out better for me. I'm like, bet. So I'm like, man, cool. So she came over. I had it set up for her to come over this Sunday night. Now, again, I was trying to do something strange with her. Like, she was fine as all get out, man. I ain't gonna get into that. Was the old me. That was the old flesh me. But she was fine. But I would definitely try to do something strange for a little piece of change. You know what I mean? So she was a college girl, and she wasn't like the other girls that we mess with, that we have around. Like, she actually had, like, dignity about it. You know what I'm saying? So I knew that if I had the whole house full of dudes, that she wasn't going to do nothing, and I was trying to do something. So I cleared my house out. I was like, hey, man, this girl coming over about 7. Y'all need to get the F out and don't come back until I tell y'all to come back. I said, take the phone, take some of the dope with y'all in case y'all get some calls while I'm going out. Like, but get out of this house. I don't want to see a single one of y'all until I tell y'all to come back. You know what I'm saying? So they all cleared out. I got the house cleaned up and everything and got ready for the girl to come over. So she came over, man. We sat down, we chilled, and we talked and we laughed. And we had a really good conversation. And I remember to her, like, it was like around like 9 o'clock. And she was looking at her phone. I'm like, man, what you come looking at the phone for? She said, look, she said, I ain't gonna lie to you. She said, I had a great time talking to you tonight. She said, I really didn't know what to expect. She said, I knew you were trying to get you some. She said, but I'm gonna let you know right now, I don't get down like that. She said, but I really do like you. She said, you're a really nice guy. If you know what I'm saying, the real you is actually way nicer than this persona you put on. She said, so I tell you what, like while we was talking, there was some movie that was coming out soon. She's like, I want to see that movie. And we both mentioned we want to see it. She said, well, it comes out in 2 weeks. Why don't we actually set up a real day and we go and watch that movie and then we just see what happens from there. So like, bet, you know what I'm saying? Bet, sounds good or whatever. So she ended up leaving. So I told my boys not to come back till 11. I said, either 11, I said, but I'm going to call you and let you know to come back. I said, but definitely don't come back before 11. So it was the first time, in ever probably that I was actually by myself. You know what I'm saying? That it wasn't somebody at the house somewhere doing something. So it was the first time, and I was just like, man, I still got a couple of hours left for free time. What am I going to do with this free time? I ain't never had this time to myself. And again, that was when the Holy Spirit had tugged at my heart. He's like, hey, why don't you work on this song yesterday? Because that's what ended up, I forgot to tell y'all, when I got there to the store, that when I was writing, it was a song. And the name of the song was called God's Will. And it was talking about how everything happens for a reason. It was so weird. And that's why I get to Romans 8:28. That's basically, it was Romans 8:28 in the song. And it was talking about how everything happened for a reason. And it was weird because at that point, I had not been to church in 6 years, 5 or 6 years. And I definitely have no mindset of, everything is working out for God's good kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? That it wasn't me. Like that song it came from me. I wrote it, but it didn't come from me. So I was like, yeah, that is weird because I ain't never wrote a song before. Because I wrote the whole song, the chorus, all 3 verses and the chorus in that car ride to go get those bullets. You know what I'm saying? It just poured out of me. So it was insane. So So like, man, why don't you work on this song? I said, yeah, because that was weird. I never wrote a song before. So I went and sat at the table that like I said, the same spot that I wrote that confession letter. I sat there in the exact same spot. I never forget it because that was where I broke my dope down there. So whenever I sit at the table, I sit in that spot. And I never forget, I pulled it out. I'm like, well, before I get to work on this song, I need some inspiration. So I rolled me up a blunt and I smoked about half of it. So I'm sitting there, I'm zooted, you know what I'm saying? We used to call zooted, and I'm high, and I started reading this song. And I know you good Christian people probably ain't never smoked weed, so I'm explaining to you what happens when you smoke weed. Everything intensifies. Like everything, like your favorite song is like 10 times better than it was like sober. Like you know what I'm saying? Your favorite food tastes 10 times better. Like everything is so much more intense, and you look at it so different. So like I said, I'm high as all get out, and I'm reading through this song that I wrote. And as I'm reading through the lyrics, man, my heart just started like beating. You know, it was like fast, like it was like pounding. And like the words was like, I can't even explain, like the way they was hitting me was insane. Now I know then what was going on, but I was coming on a conviction by the words that I wrote, because in this song, I was talking about how I had did all this stuff that I was doing, I was talking about in this song. And reading my own lyrics brought me under conviction about the way I was living, what I was doing. So my heart started beating. And then like at one point I just started like crying. Like I wasn't crying, but like tears was coming down my eyes, and my heart was beating. And then next thing you know, I just got these chills all over my body. And I'm like, man, what is going on? You know what I'm saying? So as I'm reading through the song, there was a line in the song where I was talking about selling dope. So I like, man, and the way it was worded, I wanted to change the wording on it. So I had a pen in my hand. This is my cone. Don't laugh at my pink cone. So I had my pen in my hand, and I'm reading. I'm like, I'm going to change that. So I got ready to go change it, but my pen wouldn't move. Like it was just stuck in midair. So my first thought was like, man, this is good weed. It's so high. I'm so high right now that I'm stuck. I can't even write. But so I went to put more pressure down on him, and no matter what I did, my pen would not touch the paper. Like it just wouldn't touch the paper. It wouldn't go nowhere near the paper. It was just, I'm literally like, and it would not move. So next thing you know, I get these chills all over my body. You know what I'm saying? I get these chills all over my body, and my heart's beating, and I got these chills on my body, and I'm crying, and I'm just like, what is going on? I'm thinking, now, the one thing I did forget to mention too, one more thing I forget to mention, you get a little detail over the years. At that point, we had started smoking, well, my brothers had already started smoking what they call heavy Chevys. And if you don't know what a heavy Chevy is, that's when you take some weed and you roll it up and you sprinkle a little cocaine on top and you roll and smoke it. And again, I said I would never smoke cocaine, but I hadn't smoked a lot of them, but every once in a while I would hit a heavy, and my brother, one of the other guys, was smoking one, I would hit it. And you know it's a heavy because it smelled way different than just regular weed burning. So they had rolled one before they left, and I was like, man, I know I didn't hit that heavy, so what is going on right now? So I've got this feeling, and then so I'm sitting there, my hands shaking, my pen stuck in midair. I got these chills going all over my body, tears coming out of my eyes, my heart beating. I feel like I had a heart attack because my heart was about to beat on my chest. And then next thing you know, my life, you know how they say, well, right before you die, you have that near-death experience. My entire life flashed before my eyes. And I remember looking at it like, okay, that's my life. I lived it. You know what I'm saying? No, I know that that's my life. That's what I lived. No big deal or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I remember because it was so funny because like it flashed, but what I focused on was all the bad parts all the time. Because I had a gun put in my face like 3 different times when I was in North Memphis. I had been jumped a few times. You know what I'm saying? I know what I'm saying. Well, my mama been through all this stuff. So like I focused on the bad stuff, and I was like, okay, that was my life. Oh well, that's what it is. What it is, kind of thing. But then my life rewound it. It rewound it. It's like it rewound it. The little replay rewound it, and it showed me all the bad stuff again. And it showed me how many times God had protected me. It showed me that every single time I had that gun in my face, the reason why I never got shot, because God was right there. You know what I'm saying? Showed me all those low moments where, you know what I'm saying, when I was down and I got picked back up because God was right there. So it showed me that even though I was saying God wasn't real because of what I had been through, he showed me, well, when I had this little vision or whatever, it showed me that not only was God there, he was there carrying me through that the whole time. He was there for the whole time. And it wasn't that he had left me, I had left him. And that's what it shows. So when I got that realization, man, it just in a moment, my whole life made sense. In the moment, now I didn't know Romans 8:28 then, but in the moment, in just that instant, just like that, I understood Romans 8:28, and I understood that everything, God was with me the whole time. Everything that was happening to me for a reason. So right then, I threw my pen down, and I was like, man, what is going on? Why I got these chills? And again, I didn't hear a voice. But it was my heart talking to me. It was that conviction talking to me. And he was just like, well, you said you want God to show up and show you that you're real, show that he's real. He said, that sensation that you're feeling right now, that's God right there. He said, so you got something to say to God, you need to say it. You got something you want to get off your chest, get off your chest. I said, all right. So I threw the pen down. And the first thing I said to God, y'all, and again, this is not even bragging. I'm probably going to have to answer to God for this someday when I stand before him. But the first thing I said to God was, man, F you, God. That's what I said. I was so mad in my life, what I've been through. The first thing I said to God was, F you, God. I like, man, you seen this life, you seen what I've been through. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I went through the whole list, my mom on drugs, me being raped and all that stuff. And I went through this whole laundry list of stuff that I had been through. I said, now you want to come and show me that you was there with me the whole time that this was going on? You was there the whole time and you didn't stop this? I'm like, man, F you, God. You know what I'm saying? So I just started going off. You know what I'm saying? Just like anybody else would do, I started going off on God. So this goes on about a good 15, 20 minutes, and I'm just huffing and puffing. I'm just telling God to go F himself and blah, 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 blah. And I'm talking, and I finally get done like 15, 20 minutes later, and I'm sitting there, I'm huffing and puffing, and I'm in a pool of tears. I mean, my shirt is soaked with the tears, and I'm crying, and I'm like, I done told God off. I'm like, yeah. And then, again, didn't hear a voice. I don't want anybody to think I actually heard the voice of an angel or nothing. Just my heart was talking to me in my heart. And it was just a voice from my heart, so to speak. And he's like, all right, you upset. He said, you got every reason to be upset. And he's like, I admit it. You had a rough life. He said, you know what I'm saying? I admit it. You had a rough life. You got a reason to be upset. He said, all I want to ask you is one thing. And I was like, what is that? He said, what have you ever done for me? And when he hit me with that question, I just kind of froze. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He said, simple question. He said, what have you ever done for me? He said, you talking about all this stuff I've never done for you. He said, what have you ever done for me? He said, let me ask you something. He said, you're supposed to be a Christian, right? How many people have you ever told about me? And then when I thought about it, I had none. I had never really told anybody about God. You know what I'm saying? Other than talking about God when I was in church. But outside of church, I didn't talk about God outside of church. I didn't talk about God to my friend. Never. You know what I'm saying? I said, never. He said, exactly. He said, let me ask you something. He said, you selling dope, working 2 or 3 jobs, doing work study, putting yourself in college. Why are you doing this stuff? Are you doing it to bring honor and glory to my name, or you bring honor and glory to yourself? Because you want these little kids to think you're somebody important. He said, why are you doing it? He said, let me ask you something. Have you ever asked me to do anything for you? Have you ever put your faith in me to provide for you? And when I really thought about it, y'all, I hadn't. We get so busy trying to take care of our own problem, do our own things our own way. We never really incorporate God with that. And when I really thought about it, I said, no, I haven't. He said, exactly. You know what I'm saying? And at that point before this happened, and there's something else I forgot to mention, I actually, when I was in my depression stage, like I was talking about earlier, I actually felt like my life was cursed. Because no matter what I did to get ahead, it never worked. You know what I'm saying? I would get 3 steps ahead, get pushed 5 steps back every single time. It was always something. It was when it rained, it poured. That was my life. You know what I'm saying? So at that point, I felt like I was cursed. So when God brought that up, he said, you know, right now you feel like you're cursed. He said, you know why you feel like you're cursed? He said, because you're living for yourself and you're not living for me. He said, I got you out of North Memphis, gave you a clean slate, got you out of that environment, just for you to come back. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like what the Bible say, you know, you take don't get the swines to a pearl kind of thing. You know, because all they're going to do is dirty it back up. You can clean it up and put pearls on it, but it's just going to dirty it back up. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, I got you out of Memphis, you know, put you in this clean slate, and you still ended up back here. Why you think that is? It's because you're living for yourself and you're not living for me. He said, but I tell you what, he said, you got a choice to make. He said, you can keep doing what you're doing and you'll be dead by tomorrow, or you can start serving me and I can use you to bring other people like you to me. So I'm like, oh, what do you mean dead by tomorrow? He said, you know, when you went to get to try to get those bullets yesterday, he said, you know the reason why you couldn't get those bullets? He said, because those guys were actually planning on robbing you, and they was going to use those bullets to rob you, and they was going to leave you dead. He said, that's why they wanted you to come ride with them, is because they wanted to get you away from your crew, because they didn't want to have to deal with them. He said, but they didn't have the bullets that they needed for their gun, and they wanted you to get the bullets, and they want to use the very bullets that you got to kill you. He said, but I want to give you one more chance to make the right decision. He said, so you can keep doing what you're doing and you'll be dead by tomorrow, or you can start serving me and I can usually bring other people to me. I said, well, if he's out, he can get the bullets, then how am I going to be dead by tomorrow? He said, because he did get them from somebody else. And even though he told you he's going to rob these white people on Monday, he's actually planning on robbing you Monday night. This was Sunday. When all this happened, this was Sunday night. He said he's actually planning on robbing you. He's still planning on robbing you Monday night. And if you don't make the right decision tonight, you're not going to make it through that ordeal. So, of course, I'm getting ready to celebrate 20 years, and I'm sitting here with the Lost Sheep Ministry. Y'all know the decision I made. But it was a lot of other stuff went on. I'm just like everybody else. I still was doubting. I asked God to do a couple of things, which I ain't going to get into all that. We don't. I'm already way over my time. But you know what I'm saying? I did ask God to do some other things to show me the way. You know what I'm saying? But I'll tell you one thing he did do, and then I'm going to end the story with that. So I had this conversation. I go back and forth with God. And God basically tell me the reason why you feel the way you're doing, the reason why you feel cursed, the reason why your life is not fulfilled is because you're living for yourself. You're not living for me. You're trying to follow your own will and you're not following my will. And until you learn how to follow my will, you will never be successful. You will always be cursed. He said, matter of fact, you're not going to even make it through tomorrow. He said, so this guy's still planning on robbing you, and I'm letting you know right now, if you don't make the right decision, that you're not going to make it through. So again, a whole lot of other stuff went on that I won't get into because it'll take too long. But basically, we had that conversation. He gives me an ultimatum, tell me to make the choice, to make the right choice, or I'm not going to make it through. So he knows that the conversation ends, and I'm sitting at my table, and I'm spooked. I'm like, my eyes are like this, and I'm like shaking. So finally, it's around 11 something, my boys come back, and I'm sitting there at the table, and I'm just spooked. So my boy walked in, they all laughing and joking, and they see me like, man, you all right? I said, no. They said, what's wrong? I said, man, I think I just talked to God. So they started laughing. No, they bust out laughing like, boy, did you hit that shit while I was gone? I said, no, man. I said, yeah, I'm dead serious. I said, matter of fact, we need to have a talk. You know what I'm saying? So what I did, like when I got my pounds now, when I was getting pounds, I wasn't getting the dro and stuff like they do these days. I just got regular weed. So regular weed, when you break it down, it's going to be a lot of shake. You usually have about an ounce or two of shake. So that's why I made my money. A lot of people don't want to buy the shake because it's just like crumbs and stuff. Got all the seeds and stems. So that's what I do. I would just smoke the shake, take the ounce or two of shake, and that's what I was smoking. I would sell all the rest. So I had like an ounce, like I said, I had just read up. So I had like this whole ounce of shake that I had, and that was sitting on the table beside me. And I told my boy, I said, look, I said, here you go. I said, I want y'all to roll this whole ounce. And I had like boxes of cigars. I said, I gave them a box of cigars. I gave them the ounce of shake. I said, man, I want y'all to roll this whole ounce. When y'all get done, come get me. And so when I got up, I went to my room, and for the first time, I wholeheartedly went to God. Because the first time when I told God, show up and show me that you're real, I didn't go him wholeheartedly. I just like, man, show up and show me that you're real, or I ain't going to have nothing else to do with you. But this time, I went to my room, I closed my door, and I got on my knees, and I just went wholehearted to God. I didn't ask God for anything. I didn't know. I just started apologizing. And I just started saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I was just, and anything, just like, I was thinking of when I was writing the letter, anything I think of I was doing wrong, anything I could think of that I had did wrong, I was just apologizing for. But the main things I had apologized for were not believing in them. I apologized for not having my faith in them. I apologized for walking my own ways and not his ways. And I just kept apologizing. I just kept saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So then about 30 minutes later, my brother come and knock on the door. So now at this point, my boys, they're like, what is going on? Because they can tell something's off. They didn't know what to expect, but they just knew I was off. So my brother knocked on the door. He's like, hey man, we done rolling. What's up? I said, man, I'll be there in a second. So I got up off my knees. I went into my kitchen, grabbed a garbage bag, and I went back to my closet, and I just filled the garbage bag with all the drugs I had in my closet. Everything that I had, I put into this garbage bag, and I just tied a knot in it. And then I went up front, and I told my boys, hey, y'all gonna blaze up. I'm not gonna smoke with y'all. I just want y'all to listen. And they were like, all right. And I put them down. I never forget. I set them in like a circle. You know what I'm saying? And man, I just started preaching, y'all. Like just out of the blue. Like I said, at this point, I hadn't been in church in 6 years. I hadn't read the Bible since I can't tell you when, because I used to read it to my grandma when she had went blind, and I hadn't read it since those days. But yet, man, I started preaching, and I was quoting the Bible. I was telling the boys all these things that God has showed me, and all these prophecies, basically, that God has showed me. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm talking to y'all come because it was 20 years ago. But then I was like, hey man, and then God said this. And then, I felt they thought I was losing it. They literally thought I had lost my mind. Matter of fact, a couple folks said, man, John had lost it. Like the cheese had slipped out with cracker because, man, I was just going. You know what I'm saying? And I set them down. It's about 11:30 at night when I set them down. and I preached for 8 hours straight. Because it was about 11:30 when we started, and about 11:30, somewhere between 11:30 and 12, but it was like 7:30 in the morning before I finally stopped. You know what I'm saying? And a couple of guys, they fell asleep, but most of them, they was up because they were like, man, what the heck is going on? And like I said, the Spirit just took over for me. You know what I'm saying? So then finally, when I finished, my fool was like, man, one guy, like, man, you serious? I said, I'm going to show y'all right now how serious I am. And there was a guy I had that he was kind of working to be my second in command. His name was O. He was from Arkansas. I'll never forget him. Haven't seen him since that year because he ended up falling out of school from hanging with us too much. No, he came over. And I said, like a few weeks before this happened, I had told him, he had asked, he said, man, I'm probably not going to make it through school. I'm going to move back home. He said, but I like the way you operate. Could you show me the way you operate so I can set up my own stuff when I go back home? So I had kind of put him under my wing because I want to teach him, you know what I'm saying, to teach him the game kind of thing. So I told him, I said, oh man, I know I promised you that I was going to teach you the game. I said, but man, I just promised God that I was getting out of this game. I can't do it no more. I said, but what I will do, I will help you get a leg up. I said, I tell you what, you can have this. So I grabbed the garbage bag. It had all my drugs in it. I said, here you go, you can have this. He said, what's that? I said, man, this is all the drugs I got. I said, man, it's a couple of pounds of weed, there's some pills, you know what I'm saying? It's some pills. I mean, everything I had, I just put it in that bag. I said, here you go, you can have it. He said, you know, and first he looked at me like, you know what I'm saying? Everybody looked at me like, man, he just tested me or some kind of thing. And so when I put it out, he didn't grab it the first time. And I said, you can have it. He said, man, for real? I said, I'm dead serious. He said, what am I supposed to do with it? I said, man, you can smoke it, you can give it away, you can sell it. I said, to be honest, you can shove it up as for all I care. I said, but don't bring me 1 single cent from it because I just promised God I'll never sell drugs again. And that's why I'm trying to get rid of this right now. You know what I'm saying? I said, so if you want it, bro, you want to get ahead, here you go, you can have it. And I put it out there the second time. And when I put it out there the second time, he actually reached out and grabbed it. And when he grabbed it, I let it go. And I can tell y'all, bro, what the Bible talks about, the peace that passes all understanding, that moment it hit me, bro. And I'm getting chills talking about it right now. That moment, that peace that passes all understanding. When I let that bag go, I literally felt like the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders. And this peace, this just peace and solitude with God just came over me, bro. And I can't even explain. It's the best feeling that I ever felt in my life. You know what I'm saying? It just came over me. And when I let that bag go, it's like my boys' eyes open. They're like, oh my goodness, he's serious about this. So, man, how can we know God? So for 3 days straight, y'all, I didn't eat. I was so hyped up. I was so geeked up, so to speak, on the Holy Spirit. For 3 days straight, I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I didn't even drink water. For 3 days straight, I preached. I preached for 3 days straight. Matter of fact, the only reason I stopped preaching the 4th day is because I had talked so much that I completely lost my voice. I was still trying to whisper to people. You know what I'm saying? So, and that's what I did. So that's when I made the decision. Now, the one thing I will show you that God did to prove that what happened was real. So go back to Monday night. So I did that, and like I said, for 3 days. And like I said, I was done with it. So let's go back to Monday, and I'm going to tell y'all this, and I'll be done. I'm way over. I was hoping to keep it in an hour and a half, but I did not. Because like I said, when I tell the story, I got to, with the stuff that come to me, I just got to pour out because it was such an amazing story. It's just such an amazing moment in my life. And that's why I celebrate it every year, because of what God did for me. And y'all heard where I was at the beginning, and now I'm at where I'm at now. You know what I'm saying? So go back to Monday. So when I gave older drugs, I told her, look, I said, I'm not reneging on my deal. You can have it. You can sell it. You can do whatever you want to with it. I said, but what I'm going to have you do? I said, the way I'm going to hook you up, I said, the way I'm going to let you meet my clientele, hang down in my apartment, because he actually had the apartment on the 3rd floor and I was on the 1st floor. He said, I told him, I said, hang out in my apartment. I said, keep my phone. Whenever my customers call, we'll hook it up, tell them to come. I said, don't tell them anything. Just tell them, ask them what they want. And when they come by, tell them they can have it for free if they listen to me preach. So that's how I ended up preaching, because I had that many customers. So that's how I ended up preaching for 3 days straight, because all of my customers came by. They came by to get weed, and I'm sitting here telling about, I just talked to God the day before. So some of them were like, man, what the hell's going on? But then some of them like sit down and listen, and they end up starting to follow me a little bit later on. I had a couple of guys, they was on meth. Like I said, meth had just got started, and when they heard their story, man, they just they actually had me sing the song to them a cappella. And like when they was having like tripping on meth or they need to come down, they would just come to me, and I was sending songs to them. And one of the guys right now, he's like a real estate agent doing well, got a family, married and everything. You know what I'm saying? Got 2 kids and everything. But anyway, so guess what I did? I said, man, you can have it. I said, just tell my people, if they want it for free, they can listen to me preach. So the ones that was willing to listen to me preach, they got their weed for free. The ones that didn't, you know what I'm saying, he charged them for it. And that's what happened. So I preached for like 3 days straight. So fast forward to that night. So now it's Monday night. And like I said, it was weird. The weird part about it, and this is what the world do to us. You know what I'm saying? We don't realize a lot of stuff we do to please other people. We never really live to please God, or we really never really live to be who we really are. So I saw like once I had that moment I gave the drugs up, the guys, they went back to being kids. You know what I'm saying? When they was around me, they would try to be thug and be hard because that was the persona I was giving them. You know what I'm saying? So when I softened up, they softened up and they went back to kids, man. We was like wrestling and we went and rode like go-karts. I mean, we did all kind of like crazy stuff, like, you know, stuff that we've been wanting to do, but nobody was really doing because they wasn't really being themselves because they were trying to impress me, and I wasn't being myself because I was trying to have an influence on them. You know what I'm saying? And all of us were being fake, and we was on a path that was leading us to destruction. So that whole day, like I said, we were just wrestling and praying. I was preaching the whole day, and it was just a great day. So the end of the day come around, it's like 11 o'clock, and this is where I get to February the 17th. So now this is February 16th. So this is a Monday night. So Monday night come around, like I said, I'm preaching the whole day. I'm preaching. So about 10:30, 11, everything started to calm down. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still preaching. I'm preaching to my boys. So it was about 10:30. That would have about 10:30. So I'm preaching to my boys, and about 10:30 come around. So normally I always keep my door locked. I never left my door unlocked because I didn't want nobody coming in my house. My kids will tell you, I drive them crazy because I don't care where he is in the country. Lock the door. I get so pissed when they leave a door locked because you just never know. Being from Memphis, you leave your door unlocked. You asking for somebody to run in your house. So I've never having unlocked doors. But that day, the Spirit of God was on me, and I was so happy to be in the presence of God that, you know what I'm saying, that I didn't care. Because anybody that came to my house was going to get the gospel. I don't care what they was coming there, what their intention was. I was going to tell them about God that day. So I left the door unlocked. So it's like 10:30, 11, about 10:30, I'm in all the lights off in the house, and it's just me and my boys, and we in my room. Now, the way my apartment was set up, I had a room at the back, then I had a long hallway, and then it was my front door. You know what I'm saying? And then my brother's room was like on the sides and stuff like that. So I'm back there and we preaching, and I hear my front door open. Now I'm preaching, but I'm thinking to myself, like, man, who is that? Because nobody had called, and we weren't expecting nobody to come by. So I'm like, who is this walking to my front door? So I'm like, man, I don't care who it is. I'll see them when they get here. So I keep on preaching. So next thing you know, I hear 2 sets of footsteps coming down the hallway. Still not, then don't care. Like, I see them when they get here. So the footsteps get closer and closer and closer. And finally, when the footsteps got right outside my bedroom door, I looked up, and it was 2 men in ski masks. One of them had a 12-gauge shotgun, and the other one had a 22 pistol. And they aimed them both at me. And they looked at me, and they said, lay it down, nigga. So I looked at them. I said, man, y'all sit down. So I already know who y'all are. And I just went back to preaching like they weren't even standing there. So these guys are standing there, guns drawn. One had a 12-gauge, the other had a 22. And they got them both pointing at me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just preaching like they ain't even standing there. So they got ski masks on. They look at each other like, man, what the hell going on? And it messed them up. Because the Spirit of God was on me so strong at that moment that even though these dudes were standing with guns, nobody paid attention to them. Like nobody, they were standing there and it was like they was invisible. Nobody was looking at them. The Word of God was coming out of me so strong that these people my boy, they was completely enthralled with what I was saying to where they weren't even paying attention to these guys standing there with guns. So the guy, they standing there looking at each other like, man, what the hell's going on? And then finally, it just got awkward. They was like, we just playing. Pulled the ski mask off, and guess who it was? It was that guy named Mandrikas that I went to get the bullets for the other day. That Saturday, that took me and his I don't know if it was Yoshan was his cousin or his buddy, but it was Buddy Yoshan. You know what I'm saying? Yoshan had the 12 gauge and the man had the 22 pistol. So they took the mask off. They said, man, we just playing. And then they just kind of scooted on the bed with everybody else. And they were just looking at each other like, man, what is going on? So I just kept on preaching like nothing. So I went for about another 15, 20 minutes. And then I finally told Mandrikas, hey, man, I need to talk to you because a couple of days before this happened, he had got into one of the boys of my crew. So he thought that's what it was. I was going to kind of pull him to the side and talk to him about that. So I said, hey, man, I need to talk to you. I said, come smoke with me right quick. I said, come to my brother's room. So, you know what I'm saying? So I grabbed one of the blunts from earlier and I took him into my brother's room. So as I was walking in there, I didn't take my pistol with me. And that was when I put God to the test. I said, I tell you what, God, if you really got this work for me to do, you really got this ministry for me to do, then I'm going to put my complete faith in you to protect me. I know he still got the pistol in his pants, and I know he's still intending on robbing me. I said, so if I'm gonna make it out of the room, you're gonna have to be the one to protect me. So we went into my brother's room and I locked the door because I didn't want nobody to come in. I really wanted to see if God was gonna show up because he say test me, you know what I'm saying? I tested him, you know what I'm saying? And now I know I shouldn't tip the Lord thy God, but I did then. I was ignorant. I was just getting started, you know what I'm saying? So I tested him, you know what I'm saying? And so I went into the room and we sat on the bed and he was just spooked because he had no clue what was going on. It just the way that the night went was not what he expected, you know what I'm saying? So we sat down and first I just act like we were smoking. You know, we went back and puff up past, you know how I go. But when I was hitting it, like when I was sucking in the smoke, but I was blowing it out, I actually wasn't hitting it. So about halfway through it, you know, so I hit it one time and then I handed it to him. I looked him in his eye. I said, hey, by the way, I forgive you. And he said, for what? I said, I forgive you. He said, for what? I said, man, I know when y'all was coming here, y'all was really intending on robbing me and killing me. I said, but you ain't got to worry about it, man. I forgive you for it. He said, oh, no, bro. We was just playing, man. We gonna do you like that. We just thought it'd be fun. I said, come on, bro. I said, who do you know gonna roll somebody's house at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night in ski masks? I said, who does that? I said, how you know I didn't have my pistol out, you gonna get shot? I said, man, I know you came in here with your stuff cocked and ready to go because you was intending on robbing and killing me. I said, but it's cool. I forgive you. He said, no, bro, you got me effed up. So he jumped up, you know what I'm saying? Like he about to rush me or whatever. So by this time we getting kind of loud, you know what I'm saying? We kind of going back and forth, you know, we get kind of loud. So again, I didn't want my boys to come in. So when he jumped up, I jumped up and I stood in front of my brother's bedroom door so nobody can come in. And I just put my back against the door and I just had my arms out like this. I said, man, what you gonna do, bro? I said, you know what I'm saying? I said, matter of fact, you can do what you want to do. I ain't gonna even fight you, man, because I know God got me. So this dude got in my face, like literally, like right, we was like almost touching nose, and he just had this look. He had his fists up like he wanted to swing, and he had this look in his eye like he wanted to, but he couldn't. And he was just like breathing hard, and he was like, and like, you know what I'm saying, breathing hard, and he was looking, and his fist was shaking. And see, I had already made up my mind that I wasn't gonna protect myself. So I was thinking like, man, this dude about to knock me out. You know, I'm about to get knocked the F out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm standing there just waiting for him to swing, but he never did swing. And I remember it clear as day. I looked at him and I'm like, man, and I looked, I said, man, is he going to hit me or what? And right when I said that, a single tear came out of this dude's eyes. Like a single teardrop just kind of came down and it dropped off his cheek. And when it jumped off his cheek, he threw his arms around my shoulders, man, and around my neck and started hugging me and just started crying like a baby. Now, this is a thug. Now, it's awkward for me because this is like a thug. This dude got tattoos on his face and neck and everything. And this dude just started crying like a baby. And the weird part about it was when he started crying, he just started saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. The same way I was crying out to God when I realized what I had done and he was calling me was the same way he was apologizing to me. And he was just like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And I said, man, what you sorry for? He said, man, I was coming to rob you, bro, but I wasn't going to kill you. I said, nigga, I'm from North Memphis, man. I said, you think it's the first time I had a gun in my face? I said, what was you going to do if I didn't give you what you wanted? He said, well, I was going to do what I had to do. I said, exactly. I said, and up until last night, bro, I was willing to die for this. I said, but after last night, I'm going to die for something else. He said, what's that? I said, God. And he looked at me and said, bro, how can I know God like that? I said, man, let me tell you. And I sat that dude down and I talked to that dude like another 15, 20 minutes and I told him what happened. And of course, I didn't give him this full version like I'm giving y'all, but I told him probably another 10, 15 minutes and told him what happened. And when he got done, he said, you the first person I ever met that I really feel talk to God, bro. And he said, I don't even know why I'm telling you this, man, but I love you, bro. He said, from this day forward, if you need anything or got any problem, anybody, let me know, man, and I'll take care of it, bro. He said, I just want to be close to you. And we hugged, and that was the first time I ever had a man that wasn't in my family tell me he loved me. And like I said, I don't even know where this dude came with the intention of killing me, and he left there saying he loved me. And we became tight after that. We actually even did a song together. I got another song that I wrote that me and him did together. Now, he's dead. Now, he died about 7, 8 years ago in a horrible car wreck that killed like a whole family. He hit the car head on and killed a whole family, but that's a whole nother story. But after that, and he was a knucklehead. He was in and out of jail and everything. But every time he was in jail, I would write him. I would send him Bible verses. And really, when he got out, by the time he got out, he can quote the Bible better than I could. You know what I'm saying? But he struggled with the sin just like we all do. And he ended up down in that car wreck. You know what I'm saying? But after that day, we was close. So anyway, so when that happens, he walks out. Now the whole time he had the pistol in his pants. I knew that, but he never pulled it out. So he walked out and he told his boy, "Hey, yo, Sean, let's go." And he like, "Man, what's up?" He said, "Man, I'll tell you in the car." So a dude grabbed a 12 gauge and they both walked out. And my boy like, "Man, what was that all about?" I said, "Oh, man, them niggas coming to rob us and kill us, but we good." And I just went back to preaching. They were just like, "Hold on, how you gonna just glaze over there?" I was like, "Bro, God already took care of it. You know what I'm saying? I'm his servant. We ain't got to worry about none of that ever again." I said, so I got talking. So right at the time, it was about 12 o'clock. It was, like I said, it was the 16th, Monday. So right, it was close to 12. I said, "I tell you what, I need y'all to give me a minute." I said, "Go up front, and I'll be back up there in a minute, talk to y'all in a minute." So I got on my knees. When they went up, I got on my knees on the side of my bed again. And that's what I told God. Now, again, I told y'all I had asked God to show me, I was like Gideon, show me the fleece kind of thing. So I had asked God to do some other things to show me that what was going on was real. You know what I'm saying? But when I got on my knee, I said, "Look here, man." I said, "Man, my bad, bro." I said, I shouldn't have. Who am I to make you prove yourself to me? I like, you've done enough for me, man. And I really, I just need to be doing more for you. I said, I apologize for never putting my faith and trust in you. I apologize for never putting you first and always putting everything first, the world first. I said, from this moment on, I promise you that's in. I said, from this moment on, my life is yours. It was, matter of fact, it was 12 o'clock that night. 12 o'clock on Tuesday, February 17th is when that happened. I said, from this moment on, my life is yours. Whatever you want me to do, whatever you want me to go, whatever you want me to say, my life is yours. I said, as far as I'm concerned, I did die tonight. I said, and now the rest of my life, I'm going to live my life for you. And I dedicated my life to God right there at that moment. And that's the moment the Lost Sheep Ministry started, y'all. So that's what happened. And like I said, it's it's already 2.5 hours. So I'll be here all night if I tell y'all everything that happened. But God did a lot of the things. I asked my girl to marry me that same night. She said yes. That's a whole nother story in itself. If y'all ever interested, reach out to me and I'll let you know. It was a horrible, the most worst proposal ever, but she did say yes, and God told me she would. You know what I'm saying? Just real quick, God basically told me to tell her everything I had been doing, all the girls I had been hooking up with, and then ask her to marry me, and she was going to say yes. And I did it, and initially she told me to go F myself. That's what she said, the first reaction. But then after that, we talked a day later, and she said yes. And this April, we'll be married 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Been together since 2000. So been together almost 24 years. Been married 20 years. You know what I'm saying? I'm living a life I never imagined living. I'm a chemist for $1 billion corporation. You know what I'm saying? I got seven kids technically because I also adopted a younger brother. I got him. He's not as bad as the other one was. Knucklehead like the other one was, but I got him pretty young. Got him. I'm a chemist for $1 billion corporation. I've been a Lost Sheep minister for the last ministry started that day, but I really got into the ministry when I moved here to Waverly, Tennessee. That's why I'm so grateful the Lord moved me here. I live in the country. This is Mayberry to me. I never imagined living country living. Like I said, I got my wife. I can go and kiss my kids at any moment I want to. They over there now, knowing I'm in here running my mouth. I can get to go. There's stuff you see in a movie where the dad go from room to room. Hey, good night. Give my kids, tuck them in. I've been able to do that. You know what I'm saying? And that's something I never had. I've never seen, because I never had, y'all heard in my childhood, I never had that in my life, but I have it all because God had a purpose for me. And that's what I had to understand. So those moments when I was mad, that moment when I turned my back on God and said it wasn't no God, it wasn't because God had left me, it's because I had left him. And that's what happened to us. We love God when everything is good. And y'all remember I just did the sermon last Monday, was talking about God's will. Now I told you the timing of it is crazy, because I was going to share this testimony with y'all tonight, because that's my testimony, God's will. And that's what God showed me. Everything that happened to me was for a reason. And because I got molested as a child, my kids have never been molested. Because that's the one thing I said. Y'all know me. I work 100 hours. Matter of fact, I'm working 2 jobs right now. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I go to about 5 o'clock in the morning, go to work. I don't get home at 6:30, 7 o'clock. Get up and do it again. Why? Because I always wanted because of what happened to me, if I ever had kids, I would never want my kids to have to go to daycare or have to be in the care of somebody else. Because that's how those guys got me. Because I was always alone. My mama was working. My grandma was working. I was alone. So whoever would, watch me is whoever my mom would let me go with. And the reason why the guys were watching me because they was doing stuff to me. You see what I'm saying? So it made me who I am. And I told my wife when we got together, we first started having kids, I was like, look here, I don't want you to work. I said, if I got to work 100 hours a week to provide for this family, then that's what I'll do. And there was a point for 2.5 years where I literally worked 100 hours a week. You know what I'm saying? And my wife, just for the first time, started working about a year ago. And that's because all my kids are old now. I ain't got to worry about leaving somewhere else. She just started. And when inflation decided, all right, now it's been 15 years. It's been almost 20 years. It's 15 years since you had a job. We've been together 20 years. I was like, all right, it's time to get you about to work now. Like the kids are big. They can take care of themselves. But she just worked for the first time. She had her first job in 15 years. She just started working like last year. Matter of fact, we were laughing at it the other day. She's like, I've been working a year. She's like, this is insane. You know what I'm saying? So, but that made me who I am. The reason why I work hard, the reason why I love God so hard, the reason why I love my people and my ministry so hard is because of what happened to me. You know what I'm saying? It was because of what I went through. And I remember those days when I was down and out and I was at my wit's end and somebody just stepped in and showed me just one little ray of kindness that let me know that God was still there. I didn't know that what it was, but it was God still there. And when he had that little, when I had that little flashback in my life, that's what he showed me, that he was there the whole time. Every single time somebody stepped in to help me out, gave me some food or gave me a couple of bucks to help me keep going, that was him stepping in my life. And God is really all around us. God is always working in our lives. He's always doing stuff for us, but we've gotten so far away from him, we're so out of tune with him that we don't see it. But if you turn your heart back to him, it'll be obvious. You know what I'm saying? When I look back on my life now, that story I just told you, when I look back and think of all the stupid stuff I did and how far I had got away from God, like, how stupid was I? I honestly think, like, how could I have been that dumb? How could it not been that obvious what God was really doing for me? But see, that's what sin would do. That's why I said the wages of sin is death. That's what sin will do. It will blind you to the truth. It will blind you to the fact, and it will blind you and keep you from the grace and mercy of God. But God is so loving, he's so forgiving that he will still be willing to give you that mercy and grace once you turn your heart. That's what the prodigal son, if you look in the prodigal son, the story of the prodigal son, he said when he came to himself, he like, hey, I just go back to my father. When you had that moment when you come to yourself, if you look at that story, when he went back to his father, it says when he was still afar off, his father saw him and ran to him. So he wasn't even there yet. He had just started making a journey back, but his dad was looking for him. And that's how it is with you. If you got to turn your heart away from God, if you had a rough life and because of that rough life, you've got bitter at God and turn your heart away from God, I'm telling you, all you got to do is have that moment when you come to yourself and go back to him, and he's still there waiting on you. But he's not going to force himself on you. He's not going to force you to live his will. You know what I'm saying? He'll let you live your will all you want. You know what I'm saying? But you got to understand, when you live your will and make your decision, you're going to be the one to pay the consequence of your actions. You know what I'm saying? And I lived my life for 24 years being my own God, and it almost got me killed. And now I've been living for this Saturday is going to make 20 years that I've been living for the Lord. And man, I'm living a life I never imagined even possible. I didn't even think of nothing like this. You know what I'm saying? When I was in the hood, you had to be a doctor or, you know what I'm saying, a doctor or a lawyer or a football player, something like that, or a rapper. The only way you get it. I never imagined being a chemist. You know what I'm saying? Being a chemist, traveling internationally. I got a passport. You know, so I'm supposed to be going down to Texas here in a couple of weeks just to go do some work because my job want to send me down there. Stuff like that. Got company credit cards. And I'm not saying that stuff to brag. I'm saying that stuff to show y'all how far I've come from a rat-infested house, a roach-infested house with holes in the wall. We had a room, and I didn't bring this out when I was talking about it earlier. We had a room in our house that when it rained, you couldn't even go in the room because the roof was so caved in that the room was full up with water. You know what I'm saying? You was worried about getting electrocuted. You know what I'm saying? That's how bad it was to now having, I had a house on the farm. I got this nice house in this nice neighborhood now. All my kids, you know what I'm saying, in there got their own little areas. You know what I'm saying? All because I gave my life to God and started following God. And that moment when I gave up my will and started following God's will, that's when my life fell into place. So if you out here and you feeling like you cursed, you feeling like there's no way out, You feeling like no matter, you can't get ahead. You feel like every time you take 2 steps forward, you get pushed 2 steps back. 9 times out of 10 is because you're living for your own will and not God. And if you have that moment where you come to yourself, the Lord will accept you back with open arms, and you will be able to live the life and get that grace and mercy that He has for us all. I don't have this because I'm special. I don't have this because I'm so awesome and so handsome, or because I'm God's pet. The stuff that I have, the grace that I have, and the mercy I have is available to everybody that's willing to accept it and turn their heart back to the Lord. So that's it, y'all. That is my testimony. I said every single time, I'm going to try to cut it short, but I just can't. It was just too much there. And that ain't even, like I said, that's probably, I would say that's probably a fourth of the story. That ain't even everything that I went through, but I had to try to condense it because I know people don't have a long attention span when it comes to the things of God. But I hope y'all enjoyed that. But more importantly, I hope it touched your heart. If you've been that person, because and the reason why I love telling my testimony, because again, like I said in the beginning, in in Revelation 12:11, it said you overcome the devil by the blood of the Lamb and the word of your testimony. You know what I'm saying? And this testimony, I know it's somebody out there that's probably went through some molestation. I know a couple of people personally that don't believe in God because they've been molested. And that's why I share that, because I know so many people that's went through the same thing. And they're like, I hate talking about it. I know I'm Big John, this big bad dude. But yes, there was a point where I wasn't Big John. I wasn't a big bad dude. I was a vulnerable kid, and somebody took advantage of that. So, you know what I'm saying? So you can't blame yourself for that. You can't walk around with that shame. And you go to God, God will take that shame away. And I was ashamed of that for years. I didn't start talking about that until I started preaching, like I said, back in 2015. It was the first time I told anybody outside my family about what had happened to me. You know what I'm saying? It was only like maybe 2 or 3 people that knew. But I knew by me going through it, now I can use that to help others that's going through the same thing, help them find their strength in God. So if you're that person, if you're out there, I pray, you know what I'm saying, if you got some bitterness in your heart because of the way you live your life, if you got some upset at God, or you feel like, because everybody I come across that say they're atheists, they're not atheists, they're just mad at God. Things didn't go their way, they didn't get to live according to their will, they was living according to God's will, and God's will has some suffering in there for them. And that's what happened to me. God's will has some suffering in there for me, so I turned my back away from Him. But it all worked together for good in the end. And I thank God so much for giving me another opportunity to serve His purpose and His will. I thank Him for giving me this opportunity to share this testimony with y'all. And I thank Him for giving me a testimony, because I could have been in that pine box, but He gave me another chance. And I've been using that chance ever since. So when y'all see me, like I said, I haven't been on Facebook all week. I probably won't, if y'all come in or something, I probably won't respond until Saturday because I'm still fasting. But when y'all see me posting about this day, y'all will know this is a story that goes with it, explain why I'm so happy about that day. So I thank y'all for hanging in there with me. It's been 2 hours and 40. It's been a long time since I did a sermon this long, but y'all are hanging in there with me. And I hope it's because my testimony is touching you, bring you on a conviction about something. And if you've let the bad things that have happened to you take you away from God, get over yourself. Get over yourself, swallow your pride, and understand Romans 8:28. All things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to His purpose. All things work together for good. Not just the good things, but the bad and the ugly as well. And if you can accept that, you'll be the servant that the Lord wants you to be. So that being said, I'm going to end. I forgot to get my paper out for my announcement, my ending announcements. Lord willing, next Monday, I will be here. And the reason why I like to do my testimony first, because like I said, it's been several times I've been in the prison, been in the jails and preaching, and the guys didn't want to hear nothing about the God. Then they hear my testimony, and by the time I got through my testimony, they was willing to hear the gospel. So I always bring my testimony first. Hopefully to touch somebody's heart that's unsaved, maybe struggling with something they got some going on in their life because of something bad happened to them. And I pray they hear this and they'll tune back in next Monday. So Lord willing, next Monday, if I'm still here, I'll plan on sharing the gospel. If you're not 100% sure that you, when you die, you go to heaven, tune in next Monday. Don't wait till next Monday. Reach out to me before then. But if you want to wait till next Monday, I wouldn't advise it. But that's what it is. That's the game plan. Next Monday night, 7 o'clock, y'all be here, and I will share the gospel message, salvation by grace through faith, and I will tell you how you can know for sure that when you die, you go to heaven. And I'll also tell you how you know for sure that you are going. A lot of people teach that you can lose your salvation. I will give you the Bible verse and let you know that if you're saved and you're truly saved, you will not lose your salvation. So that's for next Monday, Lord willing. Keep sharing the video, especially with this one, man. This is my life story. You know what I'm saying? God has done a lot for me, and I just want to use my struggles and my pain and my suffering to help others, ease the pain and suffering of others. And that's what the Lord showed me about my life. Now that I've been through it, I can go to help other people that's going through it. You know what I'm saying? Because they say real recognize real. And if you've never been through no pain and suffering, there's no way you're going to be able to help somebody else that's been through pain and suffering. But if you have, and you take the positive outlook on it, you can help a lot of people. So share this video, tell people about it, tag people in it, whatever you got to do to get out there. I don't mind. My stuff is always public. Of course, like I said, if you're not sure about salvation, you can tune in next Monday, or you can send me send me something in my inbox, and I will set up some time with you to make sure that you know when you go through that door called death, you can see the Lord on the other side. As always, if you need any kind of spiritual counseling, got any kind of biblical question, anything like that, reach out to me and let me know, and I will set up some time with you and go over there with you. And as always, you want to catch my old sermons. If you just started watching for the first time, you want to catch some of my old sermons, you go to youtube.com, put in God's Servant / Lost Sheep Ministries. All of my sermons are on there, except for the one I was really busy this weekend. I didn't get the one from last Monday on there yet, but I will get that on there. And hopefully, I'll be on vacation at the end of this week, so I should be able to get that one on there, and the lesson from the night, or my testimony from the night, on there as well. Sorry about that, but if y'all want to go check out my old stuff, you can go to youtube.com, God's Servant / Lost Sheep Ministries, and you can look up all my old stuff there. So I'm already way over my time. Appreciate y'all for hanging in there. Again, I hope this story helps somebody. I hope this testimony helps somebody. It truly helped me. It changed my life. And now, if you didn't know, now you know why I'm so passionate about this. This is why everywhere I go, I'm giving out gospel tracts. I see Brother Jerry. How you doing, Jerry, man? You on the road. You probably got your whole haul done while I was running my mouth. But he's the guy I met. I gave him a track a little while ago. He was coming up, picking up my waist for my company. You know what I'm saying? So, man, I love y'all. I hope the story touched your heart. And if you've heard a part of the story, you don't want to admit it here or whatever, or want to put it in public, reach out to me. You know what I'm saying? Something that you went through, you're like, man, I went through the same thing. You need somebody to talk to, reach out to me. And I pray that this testimony will help others come closer to God. So with that being said, I'm going to pray to get out of here. My nose gets snotty and everything. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for watching over me. Thank you for giving me this testimony. Did not mean to lay it all out here like that. I tried my best to tone it down, Lord, but I can't help it when I get to talking about this story, and I just think about it. It's been 20 years, and I can still just remember the stuff like it was just yesterday, because it was so amazing, man. I never imagined being in the place that I am. I never imagined that you would use someone like me to do a mighty work in your name, to help others that's been through trauma and pain and things of that nature, Lord. I never imagined that you would use me, Lord. So I just thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for giving me that one last chance before it was too late and I went past that point of no return, Lord. And I pray if there's anybody that's hearing this testimony that's going through the same thing, who's turned their heart away from you because of some trauma they've been through, because of the evil desires of others, I pray that you touch their heart and help them see there is a way out of that. There is a way to deal with that pain, and it's through your name, Lord. It's through faith and trust in you, and help them know that even though they're going through it, it's for a reason. It's not, you're not just picking on them. You're not just doing it just because you're a meanie. You're doing it because you're making them stronger, and you're doing it because you want to bring them closer to you, because you have work for them to do, Lord. And I pray, I'm sorry, y'all. I pray, Lord, that you just watch over them all, care for them all, be with them all, Lord, and just help them. Help them understand your will for their lives. That's the most important thing for any of us, Lord, to find your will for our lives and walk that way. I thank you so much for 20 years ago showing me your will for my life, Lord. But more importantly, I thank you for giving me the wisdom and discretion to make decisions and follow that will. Because you show your will to us all the time, but we always choose to go our own will, and that's what gets us in trouble. But I do thank you for giving me the wisdom and discretion to choose your will, Lord, and I thank you for a wonderful will it's been. And yes, I've had my ups and downs. I still go through things, but nothing compares to my life, the way I live my life now, and what I go through now, and what I went through when I was little, not even close, Lord. And it's all because of your will. So again, thank you for this moment. Thank you for this testimony. And thank you for everybody whose hearts this is going to touch. And I pray you use this testimony tonight to heal this world, Lord. Bring this world back to you. Use this testimony. Use my family. Use this ministry in a mighty way to honor and glorify your name, actively build your kingdom, and turn the hearts of this world back to you. Be with everybody as they go about the night. Keep them safe and protected. Continue to watch over this ministry. Continue to help them grow, prosper, reach out in the community, and change the lives of others, and capture lost souls of men Just continue to use your word and your spirit to guide all our hearts back to you, Lord. I pray for the day when the world as a whole, we will humble ourselves, pray, seek your face, and turn from our wicked ways so you can hear from heaven, forgive our sins, and heal our land. We love you so very much. Thank you for this opportunity tonight. And I say this prayer in one of the Son, Jesus' name. Amen. Amen, y'all. Thank y'all, man, again for hanging in there, man. This has been a long time, bro. It's been a long time. Since I did one this long, I didn't want to do it this long because, like I said, people see 2 hours, but they'll go watch a 3-hour Cat Williams video, but they won't watch them preaching for no 3 hours. But I appreciate y'all that hung over me. That's an encouragement. And again, I pray this story touched your heart, but more importantly, I pray to bring you on conviction and give you want to get back close to God, especially if it's some kind of negative thing that's taking you away from Him. And I hope you will see that it's not because God picking on you, He don't love you. It's because He's trying to bring you closer to Him. And if you give it over to Him, He will use all these situations, everything you've been through, the good, bad, and the ugly, to bring you closer to Him and get you where you need to be. Because again, all things work together for good. So I love y'all. Thank y'all. Continue to pray for me. I continue to pray for y'all. Be back next Monday, 7 o'clock. Same time. I'm going over the plan of salvation with you. And I pray y'all be back. But until then, keep praying for me. I pray for y'all. And remember to always watch your back and pray. So until next time, I love you all. Peace.